I'm Donald Moffat.
And I'm Heather Menzies. Logan's Run will not be on tonight.
But stay tuned for the Charlie Brown special and the Fat Albert Halloween special.
And we'll be back next Monday night.
Please support the Word Balloon podcast by going to patreon.com/wordballoon. Become a part of the League of Word Balloon listeners. That's patreon.com/wordballoon. This episode of Word Balloon is brought to you by Ithacon, April 5th and 6th at Emerson Suites on the Ithaca College campus in Ithaca, New York. Saturday, April 5th and Sunday, April 6th. Ticket prices are $25 with kids admission free. Tickets are available at ithacon.org. That's ITHACON.org. Among the guests, Don McGregor of Black Panther fame, Chris Condon, featured in Ultimate Wolverine and Green Arrow, Matt Bors from Ahoy's Toxic Avenger, Mike Gold, known for Green Arrow, Warlord, and Wasteland, and the legendary Louise and Walter Simonson. There'll be cosplay, gaming, and kids' activities. And Ithacon is offering swag bags for the first 250 attendees that buy tickets. These overstuffed swag bags offer $20 to $50 values in comic books and more. Come see all the fun at Ithacon April 5th and 6th at Emerson Suites on the Ithaca College campus in Ithaca, New York. For more details and tickets, come to ithacon.org. Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Sutters here with a new edition of the King's Speech. Happy to welcome clean-shaven Tom King, or cleaner than I've normally seen him, back to Word Balloon. Good to see you, man.
What absolute pleasure to be here, John. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm now. This is my new look. This is a permanent thing. I'm clean-shaven after 20 years. I've been since Pakistan or Afghanistan. It's their border. Since my time overseas, I had a beard, and so I'm fine. It's finally gone. Much to my wife's relief.
I was gonna say, man. All right, she likes it. Good.
She does. Yeah.
Good.
Well, I didn't have a beard when we first courted. Is that the proper term? I believe.
Yeah, courted is right.
Yeah, courted.
Absolutely.
Right. When we first, so we were married when I grew the beard. So so she knew me in the before times. And what happened was my oldest is now 16, and I was teaching him how to shave. And so in teaching him how to shave, I shaved, and I was like, oh, I like this better. I could use it. I could use a break.
Very cool. Man, already we're starting to get comments. So Nerdette is joining us. Thank you. And Zara Luna, very nice. And
welcome.
Harvey,
invite your friends. Come ask as many questions as you want. I'm here to answer questions and to say no comment to so many things.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely get to NDA kind of conversation and stuff. So expect it, everybody. Expecting no comments. But I always love when the ghosts show up. Harvey Picar's ghosts. I'd like to see Tom go full Remender and start his own thing, separate from the big two. Any plans on that? Well, you've been doing a lot of create your own stuff alongside the DC stuff.
Yes, I entered it later than most people of my generation, and not as vociferously as most people of my generation. So I say I have less creator than most. I do have Love Everlasting, which we're working on. Where Elsa and I did half of it. It's supposed to be 60 issues long, or 30 issues long. We did the first 15. And now we're taking this long break in the middle. And while we're taking that break, I'm still working on it vociferously because it's Hollywood bound. So we're doing all that stuff now.
Fantastic, man.
And I know we're going to talk in more in depth. I had my two independents just came out with their first trades like in this month.
Yeah.
In Helen and Animal Pound. And then I have two more that I'm currently working on that are in the hopper to come out next year. So there's a plethora of them. They're coming, but it's pretty slow. I obviously am doing so much work at DC on many levels. So it's the big the corporation is keeping me well fed.
Harvey continues and says, yeah, I've been enjoying Tom's recent non-Big Two stuff. His Big Two stuff was also great. Don't get me wrong. And he also says, I feel like any single creator only has so much they can do in the world of a single IP company before they need to branch out in order to achieve the artistic freedom they need. Now, first of all, I want to.
That's a provocative question, and I think I agree with it, and then I don't abide by my own agreement. So, what you're asking is, can any creator sort of live in the IP for too long? I mean, I've been with DC for over a decade now.
Mm-hmm.
Josh and I have this fight over who's been there longer. Josh, Josh Williamson. He started before.
Oh, Josh Williamson. Excuse me. Yeah. Blaylock is Devil's Due. My brain.
Yes, yeah. Blaylock is, so he started before me. He actually did some early New 52 work, and then of course Scott and James were before me. But all of them have left and come back. I've been there, I think, consistently the longest. I'm the one who didn't leave. I'm the non-prodigal son that everyone can overlook and who gives a fuck about. That's me. I'm the non-prodigal. They should.
Before,
but I agree with you. I sometimes it worries me. Like, is there something that interests me in the next character? Do I have anything to say about this? Have I done every character in the DC universe? Is there? I deal with that sort of nervous anxiety every day.
Have they pitched you any DC characters, and have you said, "Nah, I just don't have anything to say about that person"?
No, I mean, no, I can't. I mean, there's some things there's some characters I've tried that I'm like, oh, I don't have anything in me. A good example is John Constantine. I have nothing. I did John Constantine. I love Constantine. I think, especially Garth Ennis's Constantine, I think is just one of the perfect characters of all time.
Sure.
But I'm just not British enough to write him. I don't know the right slang. I feel like I feel like such a fraud when I write him. I don't know that there's just the right way to call all the things he needs. He's Liverpudlian.
Yes.
I had trouble discovering like, is it Liverpudlian? Like, even that I was fucking up. I don't even know what he would call himself and where he's from. So so that's a character where I was like, I just don't think I could bring anything to it. Although if forced to, I would write it. I mean, there's so much potential there, but it's not for me. And then there are other things, where I can't think of other characters where people are doing fantastic things on them now, and I wouldn't want to, conflict with them. Like right now, I love the Challenges of the Unknown. I wouldn't want to do anything with it because Caldwell's doing amazing things.
Yeah, Cantwell's killing it on Challengers. Absolutely, man. It's a great. I'm so happy, and also just in general. And I mean, he's certainly the characters you're playing with are established Justice Leaguers. But I really do love this concept of, hey, guess what? Everybody's in the Justice League. And that it's a great way to integrate the challengers for newcomers to see them working more with the Justice League in the Cantwell book, and the way Wade is popping everybody in World's Finest and everything, and JLU. So I love that integration of everybody. So that's cool. I'm saying that as a fan.
Yeah, that's the same. And then there's a character like Flash. People think that I killed Wally. I didn't, but as a kid, Wally West Flash was my favorite DC character. But to this day, I have trouble writing the Flash. I have arguments with people. His power set confuses me. He fights Weather Wizard. He runs up to the fight, stops, has a speech, and then I was like, I understand why he just doesn't run up to him, take all his stuff. He moves faster than the speed of light. How is anyone a challenge to him? To me, it's hard to wrap my head around. If I could ever understand how speed works, I think that would be helpful. But yeah, those are the characters come to mind that the people talk to me about writing where it's just like those don't hit me right. And then there's things like obviously I work on the Lanterns TV show. It wouldn't be so easy.
Is that inspiring Lantern comic stories for you?
No, I mean, I've done some Lanterns comics. I did the Omega Man, which was a Kyle Rayner story.
Sure.
Remember, he was sort of the center of that.
Yes.
And Doc Shaner and I did one of my favorite things I've ever written, which was a Hal Jordan story way back in, which was a crossover for Dark Side War. If you can find it, it's one of my absolute favorite things I've ever written. I have a page of it that was on my wall throughout all the writing of Lanterns to try to inspire me to be as good as I was again. That's like so much of my brain goes into that Lantern show. I don't think I would want to do it in the comics because I I don't know. I wouldn't want people to think the two were related when they weren't, or vice versa. People to think they're not related when they are. So I think it would create both confusion in my mind and in the readers. So to me, at this point, that doesn't really sort of strike me as something that would be super fun.
All right, let's see here. Well, first of all, because she already asked this, or yeah, well, I don't know if Czar Luna is a man or a woman. Forgive me, Czar. Tom, what is your method for writing a murder mystery? Good question.
It is. It's an excellent question. So murder mysteries are the greatest story cheat that ever happened, and we should all be grateful for them. I was explaining this to my kids. I said that to my kids. I'm like, what does that mean, Dad? I was like, well, when you want to tell a story, you want to have a big theme. What you do is you create a world that you want to explore, and that world could be anything. It could be a world of sentient robots that are on Earth, like in Blade Runner, or that world could be superheroes full of angst, like in Watchmen, or it could be criminals in San Francisco fighting each other, like in the Maltese Falcon, and then you have someone kill someone else. And then you have one of your figures follows the clues, and that's the way they explore the world. It's an excuse for them to explore the world, and then at the end they come to the killer. And that's just an essential plot that if you can't think of anything else, always works. It's one of those plots that always works. If you have a world, you have a character, you don't know what to do with them, have somebody shoot somebody and then go off. So I use that all the time in that context, and I take no shame in using it. I think it's kind of like a baseball player using a bat. That's just like, that's how we hit the ball when you're a storyteller. But my personal take on it is always to have a vague idea who the killer is, but not always to be tied to that. Because I think if you know exactly who the killer is in the very beginning, then your reader will know exactly who the killer is. So like, try to have your subconscious know. That sounds like a weird thing to say, but and then right towards where your subconscious is. Let's sort of let it lead you, but try not to be like, don't have it all planned out at the beginning. Like know where you're going, but allow yourself to be a little fuzzy along the way. Does that make sense? I don't know.
It does. No. That was good. That was a really good. That's a good blueprint. And it's interesting. I've been. I don't know if you've ever gone further beyond. Here's an old movie thing, and I'm sure we'll get into old movies in the later part of the conversation.
Anytime.
But great early 70s Walter Matthau, Bruce Dern movie, The Laughing Policeman.
No, I don't know this one.
Okay, it's a great crime movie. It's set in San Francisco, but they're based on these fantastic procedurals that came out of all places, Switzerland. And it's this lead character is Martin Beck. They changed his name for Matthau, but they're like the 87th Precinct police procedurals. And they made a bunch of Swedish, or pardon me, it was Sweden. It wasn't Switzerland, it was Sweden. Of course, I always do that. Sorry for the Swedes and the Swiss that happen to be watching and listening to Word Balloon.
Well, that's like,
I know you're out there.
A lot of murder mysteries come from Sweden these days. It's like a whole genre. So.
Well, these were being done in the 60s and 70s, the books. And they're, as you just described, it is the cop exploring the world and going through the various European cities that he finds himself in, and just, it's Joe Friday going through and talking to all the suspects, or all even the bystanders, and again exploring the world while he is investigating this crime. So it works in just procedurals, but also obviously in a murder mystery as well.
Exactly. But even Game of Thrones starts out that way for people who haven't read it, with the king being killed.
Yes.
And you don't know who it is, and you watch the father of the family try to figure it out, and then of course the big twist happens, and that's when it stops becoming a police procedural, and he undermines it. But even George R. R. Martin used that to start off his world, like, let's solve a murder mystery.
Sure.
So it's everywhere you look. It's just the best. Can I tell you about the best writing advice I ever got, which is similar to this?
Sure. Of course.
I was on a panel with a very famous, very old fantasy writer whose name I won't mention, who's since passed. And just in case he didn't want me to tell this story. But it was very, very early in my career. I just written my book, and for some reason, my publisher got me on this panel where I obviously did not belong. It was like a bunch of expert writers and me, and like we were all giving writing advice, and I was like, I have like you know, I was like you. Well, I can tell you about changing diapers. I don't know if I can tell you about writing. Nobody actually bought my novel. But
so it was in the Once a Crowded Sky.
it was in my
period.
Once Crowded Sky period. Yeah, it was at Worldcon. I'm on the Once Crowded Sky period, and it was a full room, and everyone's here. And this very, you know, this guy's in his 80s, probably late 80s, and they asked him for writing advice, and he's like, "Well, the best writing advice I ever got." And I think about this all the time. And so he said who he got it from, but I don't remember who it was. He said is sometimes you'll be writing and you'll be utterly stuck and bored, and you'll have a bunch of people talking to each other, and you're just like, I don't know where this is going. I don't know what these people are doing. I have no idea. There's no energy. This is a waste of my time. It's a waste of my day. I'm just completely lost. At that point, have a body fall through the ceiling and land on the floor in the middle of the scene. He's like, and I guarantee you, all your characters will wake up. Suddenly, they'll all have something to do. They'll all have something to bounce off of. They'll all have somewhere to go in the next scene. They'll have conflict, and it'll change everything. And I was like, it was... it's mind blowing. I was thinking, when I'm doing a scene, I was like, this is so boring. I was like, I need a body to fall. I mean, I'll use it metaphorically, but it's like a body needs to fall through the ceiling. I'm just going to have let's see, Godzilla appears and eats a character. Like, that's weird, but like, that'll leave somewhere to go. So, yeah,
sure.
I incredibly respect that advice. Always, if you're bored of your own writing, have a body fall through the ceiling.
You know, that's literally a scene in LA Law and it's not a dead body, but they're all in the conference room yelling at each other. And all of a sudden, Corbin Burnson's character, who has been having sex with his secretary, they fall through the ceiling above the conference room and hit the table and stuff. And so that's where my mind immediately went. But
maybe that's who the advice came from. Yeah.
And Deep, well, of course, wasn't it Deep Blue Sea where Samuel L. is like, okay, this is what we do. And all of a sudden he gets eaten.
I am telling you.
That's great, man.
Every time.
Hilarious. That's fantastic. David Santos, Left Brownie. Good nickname. Mr. King, what is your relationship with world building as a writer, specifically interested in the context of your current Wonder Woman run? And that's a good entree to start talking about Wonder Woman.
What is my relationship with world building?
As a writer. Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand.
Well, maybe as I'm assuming describing Themyscira, and by all means, David, correct me if that's the wrong direction of what you're looking for. But go ahead.
It's an interesting question. I mean, as a writer, you're always world building. Everything you write is fake. I mean, that's hard. That's incredibly hard to understand, and it's especially eye opening if you're working in movies and TV, because in movies and TV you think, oh, some of this stuff must just be captured on the spot. You realize every single thing is planned. Every single chair, someone thought about that, putting that chair there. And in comics, that's the artist who does all that stuff. Every single thing you see is in someone's imagination. So you're always world building. Whether I'm writing something like Gotham City Year One, which is just about like Gotham in the 60s, and we're sort of building what that was. Or a book like Helen of Windhorn, where we built a whole, civilization. Yes. Or probably my best world building I've done was something I didn't do myself, which was in Strange Adventures. We built the world of Ran, and I say we, but it's really Doc Shaner. Doc went and designed a map of Ran. He designed 5 different species, and it was sort of and he just kind of handed me, he's like, here's 5 different designs for species. I don't know what they do. And here's a map. And then I sort of came up with, how the hierarchy worked, which ones hated each other, and sort of the myths of them all. So yeah, I mean, you never sort of stop world building as a writer. I do think I've encountered writers who get stuck in world building, who think, and this is, I mean, it's different. Different people approach writing differently, and I'd say. To a flaw, I'm on one side of this, and some writers on the other. Some writers approach world building as like the most essential part of writing, as like, I want to build a world. I want to show you how hierarchies work. I want to show you how like, and what this book is going to be about is I'm going to take you to a different place, and it's going to be so amazing because you're going to believe you were there. And that's an amazing way to write. I always approach things through character. To me, I'm always like, the character, the world exists to give the characters conflict. Because what I'm mostly interested in is not the world that's built, but in what happens between two people, or what happens inside one person. So I'm on that flaw. And I've seen writers who are just like, I'm creating my greatest opus. I'm building this whole world. It's going to be so big and great, and they just never leave the world building stage to get to the writing stage, to get to the character stage. If you have a world and you don't have people inside it to occupy it, you don't have a story. That's how stories work. In case everyone's, I mean, in generally speaking, is like, first you have a world for them to wander, and then you create the characters to wander in it, and then you create the problem for the characters to solve. To stop by the murder plot being one of the problems, the other problems being like the marriage plot, or a love story plot, or a revenge plot, or something like that.
Sure.
So that's my relationship. In terms of Wonder Woman world building, I mean, that's a whole separate issue, because Wonder Woman has two things that, things that like Rand does. Number one, Wonder Woman's been around for 80 years. And has a deep history. And number two, Wonder Woman's in continuity. And so all of that world building has to be done with those two things in mind. I have to build upon what's come before, and unfortunately Wonder Woman's been rebooted maybe like 8 times. So you have to sort of pick and choose the sort of classic versions and find the best. And I also have to make room for other people to build off of what I'm doing, because that's your job if you're working continuity.
Zach is just saying hello, and he won't be able to watch us live, but he's going to come back later.
Zach, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And staying on Wonder Woman, because you just wrapped up the Sovereign arc, did you get any pushback on Wonder Woman making the Sovereign cut himself?
No. I mean, I pushed back from myself, mostly because it was a fairly violent moment, and Wonder Woman. Yeah. As I pointed out many times in my arc, I did a whole arc where I had, the challenge was, could Wonder Woman solve huge problems without using violence? And she uses sort of love in both of them. That was our middle arc, this being our third arc. And
I beg your pardon.
So the moment of him cutting himself was, to me, I was like, this is pushing something. But I wanted to be like, we're going to push this character a little bit. I mean, the arc was called Fury. And the idea that when you're so angry, I mean, the love of her life has been taken from her by this man. Not only that, but he's just done awful things. He's done terrible things to the Amazonian women. He's done terrible things to her friends, to her family, to her Wonder Girls. He's an awful human being who's done terrible things to America and has lied, and all of that sort of bubbling up inside her. And in all honesty, she wants to kill this guy. She wants to rip his head off. She wants to do what Greg Rucka had her do back in the aughts.
Max Lord.
With Max Lord.
Yeah.
And to me, there was sort of a moment of restraint of her being like, okay, we're going to, and of course I'm stealing a little bit from Inglourious Bastards, which is a great movie, so why not steal from the best? And for her to sort of have restraint and be like, no, we're going to put you on trial. We're going to do this the normal way. And I'm not going to kill you. I'm going to treat you with love and respect. But there's something in me I have to, like, I can't just do that. And so what she does is, I mean, she doesn't do it to him. She puts the knife in his hand. She gives him a choice, like, do something that's true and tell people who you are.
Wow.
And so he carves it. So yeah, it's not, I don't write a Wonder Woman who's utterly perfect, who always makes the best decisions, but she's trying to make the best decisions. Is the Wonder Woman I write?
Yeah, that's the struggle, man. No, that's the heroes need to struggle. So I get that, absolutely, man. And so that's great. All right,
but there was no pushback from DC or anything. No, that was okay. That was actually a compromise under other. I mean, I'll tell the longer story someday, but yeah, that was a compromise to another thing.
Jeremy, man, everybody wants to know about world building. I always wonder how writers keep worlds straight in their own mind. Do you keep a book of to reference when dealing with these worlds, or do you just have a good enough memory?
I mean, it's different on different projects. On Strange Adventures, like I was talking about, we had a very specific world. Like Doc and I had like a Bible that we definitely referenced. On
like Helen?
On Helen of Windhorn, this book I did with Bilkis. I mean, I don't know if I even call that world building. What I was basically doing was combining, Conan with some Alex with Alex Raymond, early comic strips.
Sure. Flash
And
Gordon. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Like, Mongo and things like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that. I was kind of taking some peanut butter and some jelly and smushing them together. um, and and so it wasn't. I mean, it was almost the. I wouldn't say it's the opposite of world building, but I like that was just to be like, because that world existed as sort of a metaphor or something. And I just wanted Bilquis to shine. Like that was what that world was about. I wanted to create a place where Bilquis could do her thing, which she does better than anyone else in the world, which is to draw these poetic landscapes of that's combined, the fantasy of today with like the futuristic reality of the 40s with this beautiful imagination she has. So that world building was all just about me empowering Bilquis to shine. But like when we're saying Gotham Year One, that one I had to keep track because I was going all over the map of Gotham, and I had to be like, okay, so we put Toth Street up here, we put because I was adding all these streets that were named after my favorite Batman creators, and so
Sure.
that one I had to draw a little map, and it varies from project to project.
Have in doing the Year One thing, did you ever go back? I don't even know if it exists beyond Jordan Gorfinkel and the late great Danny O'Neill, but when they were doing No Man's Land,
Yeah.
I know there was a map there, and I know Greg Rucka, when he was writing Batman, he referenced a Gotham map. Are those previous arc maps access? I mean, obviously you've got access to the issues themselves, but I don't know how much of it was actually in the story and how much of it was a Bible, like you said, that they were referencing while they were doing
it's hard because those maps, I try to keep there's an actual Gotham map that has this and that in there, and I tried to keep to that, but then those maps change as things evolve, like even the Penguin show obviously made up a bunch of neighborhoods, and like that becomes part of Gotham's history, and so those maps morph, and so you have to kind of create your own modern Gotham that incorporates, since no Man's Land was 30 years ago, and there's been so much that's happened in Gotham that doesn't quite add up. So you have to both be loyal to it and be willing to mush it up a little bit.
I would hear you. Yeah, absolutely. The Moeth Social Club. I hope I'm saying that right. DC needs to stop putting out editions of Mr. Miracle. I can only buy the same book so many times. I will be buying the Absolute Edition someday.
The Absolute Edition is gorgeous. My God, I think I have one back here.
Oh man, we're gonna zoom in.
I'm gonna put it after. Oh my, here it is without the face cover on. Oh my God, look at this thing.
Come on.
Look how beautiful.
Come on.
And it's got this. It does this thing that Mitch did where if you put the book cover on.
Oh, the slipcover.
Look at the slipcover. Slipcover. Fancy.
My nephew ruined my Dark Knight Returns slipcover, but that's fantastic. Look at that.
It looks like, but if you look at it, it looks like he's trapped. Like he looks depressed. He can't get out. And then you take the slipcover off, which is hopefully possible, because I put it in the wrong way. Jeez, Tom. And then you see that it was being blocked. That he's actually picking the lock, and he's smiling. So it's an optical illusion that he's actually escaping.
That's outstanding.
So that Mitch Gerrits is very clever, and it's an absolute wonderful book. It's half extras. It includes a poster that falls out of here, which I've already put up, so it's not on this one. It includes a script that I've never let go to the public. It's one of the best things that's ever been done, and it's honestly it's like one of those moments in your life. I always dreamed when I was a little kid that I would write something that would be worthy of an absolute. And it got made, so I'm super proud.
Boy, good for you, man. That's fantastic. That's fantastic that you were thinking along those lines, man. Jesus. Well, you got a couple. You got a couple of absolutes, don't you? And on the buy.
No, I got some on the buy. But that's my first absolute. That's the first one. Okay. I know. I always want it, and still to this day, like my dream in comics is to make Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen. It's to make these books that stand alone for hopefully for all time.
Yeah, evergreens, absolutely, man. Well, mentioning Bilquis, obviously, I would imagine eventually we're going to get an absolute Supergirl.
Supergirl is a magic book. That's a gift. Brian Bendis, your pal, who I know.
Yeah, he's my pal.
I know him a little bit in real life, but I know him mostly from listening to hours and hours of him talking to you.
He does.
When he walks around a convention, it's wonderful because he gets stopped every 2 seconds with Miles Morales fans who want to take pictures of him and shake his hand and thank him. And he turned to me after one of these sort of moments, because we're just trying to walk across the room. And he keeps getting stopped, and he's like, Miles Morales is just like a gift hug I carry around with me all day. and that's what Supergirl is to me. She's just like a gift. I don't know how I got lucky enough to write that book, and for it to become what it is. But yeah, it's a wonderful. It's just a perfect volume. You can. What's crazy about it is you can give it to anybody. It's when I was first getting into comics, there were two books that everyone gave to their friend or spouse who wasn't into comics, and that was Fables and Why the Last Man. I feel like we all sort of like, you don't like comics. Comics aren't what you think they are. Here's Fables. Here's Why the Last Man. And they'd have revelations. Be like, oh my God, this is what it was. And now my dream was to always have one of those, and now I do. You can give Supergirl to anybody. My daughter gives it to her friends, and this is what my dad does. And like, oh my God, I love it. It's a graphic novel you need to know nothing about to read, and it works. It's like a magic trick. I love it.
That's excellent. Epic says hopefully we will get another Booster and Blue Beetle monthly series from Tom soon.
Ugh, if only. I would love to. A dream. A dream. I would write Booster till the day I die. Most fun character to write in comics, with the exception of Hal Jordan, who is the least.
Okay. And another book that's worthy of either absolute or omnibuy treatment would be Human Target. And Epic Tales from the Sewers. The Human Target was awesome, by the way. And again, Moaz Social Club says I'm going to start waiting in line for that Human Target Absolute Edition.
Yeah, I feel like I always need to break some news on your podcast. I was thinking about this, and I think I can break this news at least. Don't tell anybody. I've not gotten this approved at all. Greg and I are working on something else right now. We're working on we're teaming back up for us something.
Excellent.
And so no one's ever heard that. That's not announced. It's not approved to be announced. This is why you listen to John. This is why you subscribe to John. This is why you pay him a little money, give him a cup of coffee.
Please.
These are the kinds of things you get on this podcast.
Rich Johnson, don't be quoting Tom right now, because he just broke some news for us. Lego Monster says, I want an Absolute of Strange Adventures because that's my favorite piece of work you've made.
I want that too. Lord knows Strange Adventures is it's probably the thing that most affected my career over the last 5 years, because that's the thing that James Gunn wrote that sort of made him realize who I was. So in that way, it's that book took my life and put it in a different direction. So
Dylan wants to know if the Tales of the Human Target one-shot will ever get collected.
Yeah, they just announced. I saw an announcement for it. I don't know how official it is, but I don't mind breaking other news if it's not official. They are doing an oversized Human Target finally collected together. The Human Target was collected as 2 separate hardcovers and 2 separate trades, which is nice, but not my preferred way to have that book. I'd like to have it all together with, as you said, there's one issue missing. We did kind of an annual that's kind of to the side. Which has incredible guest artists and a little Smallwood art, and that will be in the big volume. So it's going to be collected, all 12 issues plus the special, all in one, oversized. I cannot wait to see it. I cannot wait to read it. I'm actually a little afraid of it. I've said this before. I have a problem with Human Target, and it's deep and it's philosophical in that Human Target. As much as I love Mr. Miracle, I think that's the best thing I ever wrote. As much as I love Supergirl, I think that's the most sort of magical thing I ever wrote. Human Target is the most me thing I ever wrote. I don't know how to say that. Of all the things I've ever written, that is exactly what I wanted to do when I came to comics. It's beautiful. It's sexy. It's about death and God. It's noir-y. It's funny. It takes old superheroes from my childhood seriously and turns them on their head. It's the best strong comic on the shelves. It's literally my goal when I first was a 10-year-old child reading Walt Simonson's Avengers, which started me off, was to create that thing, and I did it, and now I don't know what the fuck to do with my life. So.
I get it, because as I've told you a million times, it's a great story, but man, Smallwood's art really made me fall in love with ice. Seriously, I'm like, I am in love with this drawing. I'm like, this is wrong, man. Calm down. But I couldn't help it because he just made her so compelling, and she is the ultimate noir woman. And he wrote it well, and he nailed it, man.
Smallwood, who's all digital, sent me a very small sketch of Chance and Ice on like a little postcard, and I put it on my refrigerator. So every time I open the refrigerator, I get to see this like perfect fucked up couple.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
no, and I don't know I mean, I know it's a black label, and certainly everyone can bring Christopher Chance in regular DCU continuity and stuff. But it's like, where do you like? Is there another human target? Are there other human target stories? If and again, I know it's not commercial enough, maybe for the gods to go, yeah, let's have a regular human target monthly. Hell, I even love the one that Cliff Chang and was it Pete Milligan back 20 years ago?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great series as well. But again, these are just like kind of one-shot stories, and then it goes away.
I personally would, again, because how I phrase it, if you haven't read my Human Target, this is not a spoiler. It happens on the first page. Chance dies in it.
Yeah, it's DOA. If you guys know the Noir movie, DOA.
It's ripped off from the old Noir and DOA.
He's got to find his killer. Yeah.
Also a perfect plot. And my children make fun of me constantly because whenever I tell my kids, oh, I came up with an idea, they're like, DOA, because that's my favorite plot. I have pitched it in many circumstances. It's the best plot anyone has ever thought of. People don't know the idea of DOA was a guy gets handed like a drink at a bar and drinks it, and he wakes up the next day and his doctor's like, you've been poisoned, you're gonna die in 2 days, and he has to solve his own murder and then die. It's wonderful. How can you do better than solving your own murder and then you die at the end? It's like the perfect ending.
Great low budget movies. That's the thing, guys and women that are watching and listening. The noirs are these movies that were made at these low budget studios for the most part, and the solutions that these amazing directors and cinematographers came up with to make these compelling stories, and the writers to come up with these compelling stories. And again, that's why Tom and I every week are watching Eddie Muller on Noir Alley and
best show on television. Best show on television.
And yeah, man, he was just in LA, I guess, with the Noir Film Festival.
I missed him coming to DC this year because of something. I was in LA doing lanterns.
Sure.
And now I'm in DC and he's in LA. I can't do this right. Edmund O'Brien stars in DOA, the most overacted person. Whoever, he's absolutely wonderful. More people know him. He's in The Killers. What's it like?
And for British fans, he's the original. Oh, and now I'm blanking on the scientist. Quatermass, the precursor to all the great sci-fi that we got in the 60s and 70s from England. He was the first British sci-fi science hero, and they brought Edwin O'Brien because this was kind of a thing with Brits before they really were able to kind of beat their chest with the Peter O'Toole's and the Michael Caine's and Richard Burton's and things like that. They would import an American actor to be the lead in these movies. So Edmund O'Brien, along with doing DOA and a ton of radio and a lot of movies in America, was the first British science hero.
I think the only reason people would know him today is he's briefly mentioned in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I think Leonardo DiCaprio is like borrowed his car or something. He says, that's Eddie O'Brien's cars. But I don't think anybody would remember. He's a fantastic actor. He's even in Caesar with Marlon Brando, which is, if you want to see some real overacting.
Moab Social Club. I was watching North by Northwest. Couldn't help but compare Christopher Chance and Ice to Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint. And I'm convinced Christopher is Luigi at the end. I'm confused by Luigi.
Luigi is, and this is in continuity, a character made up. From his original run, Luigi was his Alfred back in the Len Wein days.
Oh wow!
Dick Giordano. And
yeah.
And in the original run, he Chance lived in an apartment above a pizza complex, and Luigi was like kind of the one guy who kind of knew what was going on. And so I brought back that, like I always go back to the beginning of things. So I brought that back. And in the very last episode, you see Luigi having kind of a cryptic conversation with Ice. And there's many people who speculate that conversation is
really Chris.
Is really Chris.
Interesting. I love that. I love that jump to that conclusion by readers as well. And I totally forgot about that scene. That's fantastic. Ben says Edmund O'Brien's so great in 7 Days of May. Absolutely. And also
he's Mr. Intense. He's wonderful.
And Man Who Shot Liberty Valance as well. That's the newspaper.
Yes, and Man Who Shot, he's the one who has the famous line about printing the legend. That's
right. Print the when the truth isn't good, print the legend. Absolutely, man. Don, where's your comment? Don Lenza hopes you'll have a bunch of cool stuff to get signed at C2E2. Good plug.
Yeah, I'll have a bunch of stuff there. I'm trying to get Helen copies. We found that Helen is completely sold out everywhere. The trade just came out a week ago, and nobody can get a hold of it. So we're trying to find a way to get more copies. But besides that, I should have a lot of everything.
Excellent. Dylan, and I know you mentioned it earlier, but I'll let Dylan get this question in. Any new indie books coming from you? Animal Pound and Helen of Winterborn might have edged out your Batcat and Strange Adventures as my favorite things you've done.
Yeah, that's legit. I think those are better than Batcat and Strange Adventures. I mean, I think it's hard to say, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, we said this earlier. I have two new books. I'm with Dark Horse is the publisher I'm enjoying working with the most. I work with Daniel Chabon, who edits Bendis on his Dark Horse stuff, and James on his Dark Horse stuff. And they've been a great publisher. I love how the Helen trade works. I just got a hold of the Animal Pound book. It just came yesterday I wish I had it with me. So that is now all collected, and I think it's just one of the best things I've ever written.
Was that was Boom though, right?
That was Boom. Yeah, that was. There was an editor at Boom who was so nice to me, very early in my career. Right when I got Batman, he gave me my first big break, but he was like kind of willing to hire me when no one else was willing to hire me. And then I got Batman because I got Batman so early in my career, and I was like, I can't. I have to be exclusive to DC. His name's Eric, and for 10 years, the guy checked up on me and was like, just wrote me nice notes. And so when I had this idea, he was the first guy I thought of, and I honestly, it wasn't probably the best commercially, just in terms of owning the rights. Obviously, Boom has a different distribution rate, but I was very loyal to this editor, and I owed him. So we did that book at Boom, and no regrets. They published it beautifully. They found Peter, who's it's the best. The art could not be better. It was. I thought it would be one thing, and I thought it would be a 10 out of 10, and he did a 17 out of 10. And
not
Peter
20,
Gross,
17.
17. Yeah, no, I have to leave room, or else Peter's gonna get a big head. You know, he's such an arrogant guy. If you don't know, Pete, he's like this cool, like calm Midwestern dude. And yeah, I hadn't read it over in a while, and I looked it over last night, and I think it's thick. It's got a lot of words. It's one of those things you're going to sit down, and it was designed to be a book from the very beginning that kids can read, that high school kids and junior high kids can read in school and absorb and learn from, and that's what it is. It's and I'm not going to lie to you guys. It's horribly depressing. It's not a happy book. I've written happy books,
but if you're yeah, and what I was going to say, and maybe you're right, that these books are kind of too intense for dog lovers. But I would honestly say Animal Pound is right there for me with Stray Dogs. Tony Fleece's excellent book as well. Dogs. Well, it's cool. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Go on.
I'm a huge dog person. Anyone who knows me, my dog is sitting next to me now. She's of my 4 children, she's definitely the best. Don't tell the others. No, they're wonderful, all 3 of them. And I just read We 3 because I'd always heard it was too hard, and I'd always shied away from it. And I just got sent a beautiful new hardcover with this Frank Quiley art, and I was like, Tom, you're a goddamn man. You can read a book about it. And so I understand that reading a book about animals, it brings up a certain amount of emotion. I mean, Tony Fleece's book made me cry. Very few comics bring tears to my eyes. Tony's book had me actually sobbing while I was reading it. So Animal Pound can hit you on that level.
Oh, I see. She hears you, man. She
hears me talking about her, and she's saying hi. That means one of my kids has come home, and she's yelling at me.
That's all right. I love it.
Rock's going.
I always give this story regarding dog stories making you cry. Of course, everybody, and we all know from the Stripes movie, all right, nobody cried when Old Yeller died. Give me a break. And they all started recollecting and raising their hands. And for me, and I may have told you this story, I was 5 years old. My sister was 10. My dad took us to see the first Benji movie. Remember the little dog Benji?
Sure.
Benji the Hunted. Well, the first movie. I know. You're taking care of the dog. And that's why I'm telling the story. So we go to the movie, and there's a scene where Benji gets hurt, and I'm already kind of welling up even thinking about it. And you see him running away in slow motion. I'm 5, my sister is 10, It's halfway through the movie. We're bawling our eyes out, and our father's like, he's gonna be okay. He's gonna be fine. Don't worry about it. I know it sucks right now, but it's gonna be fine. And he's half laughing and half trying to reassure his crying kids that this terrible moment isn't going to be the end. And Benji dies. The end. So I get it. I so get it, man.
I used to be tougher, John. I cried at Survivor. I cried at fucking Survivor this week.
The reality show?
The reality show Survivor. If
Good
you don't
Lord.
Watch it, if people who are watching it, they know what I'm talking about. They know what moment I'm talking about. I was in tears watching Survivor. That's where I am in my life.
That's well. Here's
my
another.
Kids were mocking me.
Another dog lover joining us, Julie Benson. Hey, Julie.
Hi, Julie. I'm glad. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, we hope you're feeling better, Julie. I know it's been tough for you, and always the best to Shauna too. And here's an idea: when you're feeling better, come back on the goddamn show. Jesus Christ. How many times do I have to beg you? And really, yeah, and the four of us can do movie trivia like we love to do. So think about it. I'm not gonna, other than calling you out that way, you don't have to respond. But you're watching, so I'm letting you know. Here, Lego Master, the monster. Pardon me. The last animal book I read was The Call of the Wild, Jack London, and that freaked me out as a pet owner. I can't wait to read Animal Pound and cry. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this for Animal Pound. People like is the dogs die in this book. There is a dog that's an old dog that's put down the first 8 pages. Then it's pretty good till the end. Then in the end, it's kind of tough. So if that's like a trigger warning for dog fans, which I appreciate because I'm a dog fan.
Today I released the audio for my conversation. Speaking of trigger warnings, I released my audio for my conversation with Vito Del Sante and Dean Haspiel last night. And I do want to acknowledge this live that we're talking, and it's a moment. Today's the year anniversary of the passing of Ed Pisker, and that's a really sad story. And we get into it in detail, both in the video and the audio. So if you haven't heard it yet, it's in part 2 of the audio, but the full YouTube. We talk about Ed. And so there's my trigger warning for the day. Czar Luna wants to know, which Green Lantern comics would you recommend reading before watching the Lantern show? That's kind of I would assume that might be a question you can answer and not.
You would think so, but I'm going to put that off because I'm sure I'm going to do a whole article on it and I'll do a detail. It's a fantastic question and I appreciate it. But if I was to say that now, you'd get like 6 people from the Hollywood Reporter doing articles. Tom King says these are the ones. Like I want to me right now, we're making the show, and I mean, just to be completely transparent about everything, I want everyone focused on Superman. That movie is fucking awesome. It's going to be fucking awesome. And don't think about Lanterns is the follow-up. It's building the huge world. Superman is your first door into this world. Let's go. That's where I want. Is
there an air date yet for Lanterns?
I mean, I know it, but I don't think I'm allowed to say it.
Okay, fair enough. And in general, whatever you can say about just, the writer's room or the experience or, like just good vibes from the actors. I mean, again, I don't want to get you in trouble, but, whatever you can say, Tom.
It's all going to be boring and generic. It's just going to be me saying, yes, they're all wonderful. It's incredible. Kyle and Aaron are incredible. Everyone's great. Jason Ritter's great. Kelly McDonald's great. They're very kind people. They're very cool people, and they're doing career best work. And I couldn't be more excited. And right now, Chris Mundy, who's running the show, and Damon, who produces it, the working with as sort of a trio with those two guys has been one of the creative joys of my life. So it's great.
That's cool. Julie Benson, I'm going to hold you to your word. I just hate making Tom look bad during movie trivia, but we're game.
Dude, I'm ready to look bad because my old brain forgets everything.
The gauntlet has been thrown.
I know nothing about anything.
I am so all about, as we all four are. I am so wall-to-wall Turner classic movies and hunting down old movies on YouTube that thankfully that are orphaned and don't have, DVD or even streaming things. And, people are throwing those movies up and stuff. So no. And also, man,
YouTube is excellent for that. And what's been bizarrely good? Prime, Amazon Prime.
Prime is fantastic. And Tubi and Pluto, the free streamers as well.
I can't watch those commercials. I'm too old to watch commercials.
Be an adult. Come on. You're not that young. What are you, 10?
I don't have that kind of time.
But no, you're right. Prime is amazing and especially like obscure movies and things. Yeah, very much so.
I've been
very much
very
so.
Impressed. I just watched a Joseph Cotton noir, Blueprint for Murder.
Sure. I love man, vastly
so
Joe Cotton, vastly, and because we're tight, vastly underrated. Great, brilliant actor, brilliant writer and filmmaker who really collaborated with Wells and stuff.
Yeah.
And now I'm blanking out. Journey into Fear, fantastic Wells movie that nobody talks about. That Cotton again has a big part in, much like Citizen Kane. Amazingly good. Okay, Lego Monster agrees, by the way. About Tubi. Tubi is good, and 9 times out of 10 you get it ad free. Well, I don't know about that, but I do know a lot of obscure documentaries and foreign films and old black and whites and old movies in general. I mean, Mike, I've been watching a lot of European spy movies that were made during the James Bond craze from Italy and Germany and things like that. And again, they're just fascinating to look at. So I hear you, man. That's cool.
I watch old reruns of Match Game on Tubi. So yes, I have my Tubi things. That's okay.
Dumb Dora was so dumb.
How that much? That's
Gene Rayburn with the oddly crooked microphone that really like freaked everybody out. And also, it's a bunch of drunk celebrities with double entendres like from start to finish. Brett Summers and Chuck Nelson Riley and Richard Dawson.
Sorry, I have deep Match Game nerd, but
oh yeah, man.
Match Game, obviously, the way they shoot game shows is they shoot all in one day.
Yes,
and then they air them,
once a week. Yeah,
once a week.
Yeah, 5 shows.
So in Match Game, after the 3rd episode was when they broke for dinner and drinks. So you can always if it's 5, get the 5 and they'd switch the cast. If it's in the last 2, they are gone. They're just it's just a drunken bacchanal.
Absolutely,
to have people with markers. I love it.
It's hilarious. Again, a buzzer
from modern day. I can't stand modern day. I'll take.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate some of the ideas behind some of the new Game Show Network shows, but yeah, man, no, and especially like Tattletales. I'm a big Tattletales guy with Bert Convy.
Oh, sure,
and the couples and stuff. And it's like, hey, look, there's Orson Bean's wife. I've never known Norm Crosby's wife. I've never known what their lives look like. And
Ben Stiller's parents are on there.
Yeah, Stiller and Mara are like machines on Tattletales. They knew each other. Because it's, they sequester one of the, husband or wife, and they ask the wife a question about the husband, and the husband comes on. They're like a machine. They know each other like too well, and I love that about them. And they're so funny. I mean, of course, Jerry Stiller, George Costanza's dad on Seinfeld, and Aaron Mira.
Just did a Seinfeld rewatch. My God, he's a comic genius.
You want a piece of me?
Genius.
The best is, and I
still. Oh, Vista.
Yeah, Del Boca Vista. That's right. I can't abide infestation. He now it's out of my head. He's great at King of Queens, but no, Seinfeld. He's like bulletproof every time. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. Somebody brought on did a recent interview with the baseball player Jay Buhner, who's in that great Seinfeld episode where George fakes his death, or no, he's just avoiding work. And Steinbrenner comes to the conclusion that he must be dead, so he goes and visits the parents. And George was a great worker, and the mom's all upset, and all Jerry Stiller can go is go, "How the hell you trade Jay Buhner?"
That's right.
It's like the guy's got over 100 RBIs, got a rocket.
How the hell did you trade?
Yeah, and he screams, "You don't know what the hell you're doing." Classic Yankee fan. And they ask Jay Buhner, and he's like, they're like, "Do you ever?" He goes, "Do I ever?" He goes, "Every day I'm in an airport and people walk up to me about, you don't know what the hell you're doing, Jay Buhner." And everyone was talking about Ken Phelps. And I remember when it happened because I was doing sports radio, and me and my co-host are dying because it's like these guys are serious baseball fans because not only Jay Buhner but Ken Phelps, the guy they traded for him. Hilarious. And he goes, I run into Ken Phelps. I played against him.
And that's Larry's voice,
Yes. As Steinbrenner, absolutely, man.
Yeah,
so that's so funny. Let's see here. Oh, Harvey says not quite on topic. Everything's on topic, Harvey. Don't sweat it. But he just watched The Tenant, which has noir vibes, and it's an incredible piece of work. I don't know what streamer's The Tenant on.
I don't know that show. Sounds good though.
Yeah. No.
I like the title. I wish I'd come up with it.
Are you? I watched the first 2, and again, I know how busy you are with writing comics and writing TV and film. But the studio, the new Apple.
Oh my God, I love it.
I like it, and I'm rooting for it because what a cast. But I like it. I'm liking it enough for the first 2, and I loved seeing poor Martin Scorsese cry. weeping uncontrollably in the background.
As a man who spent the last year in Hollywood, and it continues to do Hollywood stuff, I cannot tell you how true to life the whole thing is.
Cool.
It's just I was watching it with my wife, and she's like, "Did you like consult on this?" There were things that they.
Well, and as Seth Rogen matures, I really love where his creativity is taking him, because I mean, since Freaks and Geeks, I've been a Seth Rogen fan, but man, it just seems like with every new project, he keeps evolving, and I think that's amazing.
It's wonderful. It's comfort TV. I mean, it's obviously doing that sort of one-shot trick, which they make fun of themselves for doing it. But I'll put aside all the technicality of it. It's a nice. There's a lot of watches these days that are hard. And that's an easy watch. You sit down, you laugh, and it's great.
I know earlier, Harvey, and I'm sorry, Harvey, I'm looking for the quote to put it on the screen, but he was wondering if you can get into the details of why your plan for 100 issues of Batman got sidelined. Well, you ended up putting those last 12 into the Bat-Cat series instead.
Sure. I mean, I've told it before, but I'm happy to tell it again because I think there's a lot of misinformation about what happened. So we had done Batman, one of the most successful Batman runs of all time. We had done 60 issues above 100,000, which hadn't been done in a long time. Issue 63, we're in the middle of the Nightmares arc. It dipped above. It dipped a little bit below. It dipped to like 95,000.
Typical Batman numbers.
Typical basically. Batman. Yeah, Batman usually sits about 100, 110,000, and that's where we were. But we'd kept it up under double shift for a long time, and so DC was getting antsy. To give you some, I mean, so DC came to me, and we sort of, that's when people were like, oh, the ship got rocky, but then we got it back. It was down there for like 3 issues, and the solution was his name was Tony Daniel, and Tony came on the book, and God bless him, brought it right back up. And so then for the final arc, we were about 100,000. So everything was going well. We just had that little dip in the 60s.
Okay.
And by 70 we were back up, or 75, and but then people don't know there's the 5G plan that was going to happen. That was sort of Dan DiDio's big plan, and in the 5G plan, I think people talked about Batman was going to be replaced, and another Batman was going to take another person was going to take on the cowl. And Dan came to me, and he was very excited, because he knew I was leaving at issue 100. I always said this is a 100 issue run, and he's like, I want issue 100 to be the transition to go over, and I wanted issue 100 to be the wedding. And because I was like, that's what we've been building up to, and that's what this whole thing was supposed to be. And Dan said, no, we need these last sort of 15 issues to set up this story, where you need to write this story, because it can't just happen in one issue. We have to sort of set up this new Batman to sort of take over. And I didn't really want to do that. I wanted to do this wedding. I'd done it, but I obviously don't own these properties. And Dan said, I have a compromise for you. I said, what is he? He's like, you could come off in the last 15 issues, and we'll do that story. We'll have someone else write it, and I'll give you 15 issues on the side, and you can do the lead up to your wedding and make the wedding happen, and you can do it with whatever artist you want. And Clayman is maybe my favorite Batman artist of all time. I just think he's one of the most brilliant artists who's ever put pen to paper in comics, and he's also happens to be one of my best friends. And I was like, can I do it with Clay? And he said, yeah, absolutely. And so I said, okay, I'll take that. That's that. So I still get the wedding. I get to do 12 issues of absolutely beautiful art, and that'll be the finish to the run, and I'll come off at 85. And that's what happened. And then I came off, and then James was hired, and then all 5G fell apart, and James was already on the book. And so James went his own way, and that sort of 5G plan didn't happen. And for reasons that Clay's been very open about, he kind of stumbled a little bit, and the Bat-Cat got pushed from being sort of launching right after issue 85, which it was supposed to be. It got pushed back almost 2 years, and by that time, we cut, the sort of momentum for the wedding, them getting married, couldn't happen the way we wanted to. So we wrote a story where they get married in the end, and exists sort of alongside continuity instead of continuity. So yeah, that's the story of how the Batman run ended.
And that other Batman was Jace Fox, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I think it was Jay Fox. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was the plan. I was given the Sophie's choice of stay on Batman and write the
100 issues,
the replacement story, or come off and write the wedding, and I chose to go to the wedding.
Well, and again, the great thing is, Tynion did that great run of his.
Yeah, and James fucking killed it and brought it to new heights and had new people.
Yeah.
And then Josh did some work on it, and then Chip did some work on it. And
did
now
amazing stuff, yeah.
Batman just sold 400. I was saying it had 100. Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb just sold 400 on Hush 1. Or Hush 2.
Hush 2 Part 1. Yeah, absolutely.
Hush 2 Part 1. And so Batman is in a very healthy place and has never been better. So everything worked out. And I got to do, and I love Batcat. I love how it turned out. It has beautiful art and has a wonderful wedding at the end. So
somebody asked the Hush 2 question.
I got no regrets.
And I can't remember what. That's hilarious. Lego Monster says Hush Tua. Yeah, has Huck Tua's 15 minutes? Is that? I think it's up. That was a fun and really not even 15 minutes. I would say 15 seconds. My God, if you blink, you missed Huck Tua.
Outside of my area of expertise, John, I'm more comfortable talking about noirs.
Somebody, and forgive me, everybody, but you're great with the questions, so I'm not able to put them on screen, but I do remember them. And someone wanted to know, Silhouette wanted to know if you have more cosmic stories, thoughts of I was assuming DC characters, but also on your own beyond what you did with Strange Adventures.
Yes, I mean obviously, Supergirl is.
Yeah, that's true. Of course,
it's a cosmic story, and Superman Up in the Sky, which is getting its own. It's been out of print for quite a few years. You have to buy like $200, $300 copies on eBay. It's good. An oversized Superman Up in the Sky with Andy Kubert, the best art in comics. It couldn't be better.
But are there new comics? Are there new cosmic stories you're thinking about?
Are coming out? Yeah, actually, I was just talking today about doing a sort of a space thing, and I was doing some research. Yeah, there's sort of more cosmic to come for sure. Yeah, I have a good space idea. I want to do. I grew up a huge, obviously, science fiction fan. We talk about Star Trek and Star Wars and all that stuff. So
sure.
Yeah, there is a new book I was just starting to work on that's kind of spacious.
Okay, well, while we're waiting for other questions, I want to get back to Wonder Woman because
Wonder Woman, I remember it.
Next month starts a new story arc, right? In April.
That's right. Yeah. So we're gonna. Daniel Sampour, who is one of the fastest artists in comics, just finished up this arc, and he wanted to draw. He was so excited about the next arc when we sort of planned it out together. He's like, I'm drawing every single issue of it. So he's taking normally an artist says that the next arc is I think 6 or 7 issues. That's
okay.
Like, I need to take a year off. For Daniel, that's 3 months. So we have 2 issues. With Guillaume March is coming in, and I don't know how I couldn't be more excited about these. If you read my Batman run, you like the Rooftops, which Mitch came in and did 2 issues and kind of redefined Batman and Catwoman in 2 issues. That's what Guillaume is coming in. Guillaume and I did an issue before. We did this sort of very silly issue where Wonder Woman goes to a space mall and goes on a hunt for Wonder Woman, Superman go on a hunt for Batman's birthday present, and it's one of my favorite things. I sign it all the time. People tell me it's their favorite issue. Guillaume came back and he asked for something slightly more serious than Space Mall, and so I'm like, all right, how about space stadium, baseball? So we are doing a 2-issue series, and what it is, we're doing True Detective on Mount Olympus with Batman and Wonder Woman as the partners. So it's me going back to the thing I love most, which we talked about, which was Noir, but it's Noir that takes place it's called Murder on Mount Olympus. So
excellent.
It's literally Wonder Woman's mother wakes up. There's a dead man in her bed. Her knife is in the man's back, and she calls Wonder Woman and says, "I'm in trouble." Wonder Woman's mother, people don't know, is a god on Mount Olympus. Apollo. And so Wonder Woman and Batman have to travel to Mount Olympus to solve this murder and interrogate all the gods and find a deeper conspiracy.
That's great.
I haven't for a while, and I apologize to Guillaume. I put it all on the 9-panel grid as a tribute to one of my heroes, Keith Giffen, who did a book like Who Shot Supergirl back in Legion of Superheroes days, which was my favorite murder mystery comics of all time. And Keith would do these 9-panel grids. I have one up above my head here, where he would do these like super weird close-ups of people's faces, and you pull way back and you couldn't even see. It's kind of almost abstract. And so that's what Guillaume's doing, where it's like very claustrophobic and it's very artsy. It's very cool. It's the best I've had. I'm so proud of these two comics.
So is Guillaume's story start with 20? Is that going to be next month?
Yeah, that's 20. That's next month. So that's 2021.
Okay, 2 issues. Okay, yeah.
And then 22, we have an artist I don't think has been announced yet. She's coming in to do the prelude to our next arc, which is called The Island of Mice and Men. And then we start that arc, The Island of Mice and Men. And our big bad, in case you've been curious, is a character named Mouse Man.
Interesting.
Who comes from the 50s and is he's got big yellow ears and he dresses as a mouse and controls mice. And we're going to turn him into the scariest, worst person in the DC universe. Someone you are going to hate and is going to be one of the biggest villains of all time. That's going to sort of haunt the rest of. We're doing for Mouse Man as a villain what we did for Kite Man as a side character. We're going to put him into the lexicon.
That's excellent, man.
And it's utterly insane. Daniel's already started on the first arc, and it's going to be a long arc that all takes place on this island that Mouse Man runs, and sort of and it goes from there, and it gets crazy and crazy and crazy. To go back to our first topic, it's all about world building. This is I built a world that I think is different than any world you've ever seen, but built on Mouseman's ideal of himself.
Getting back to the 2 issues coming up, start with 20 on Wonder Woman. It reminds me of the Joe Kelly Batman Wonder Woman story, where they really were hot and heavy in their relationship, and they were on Mount Olympus, and Bruce is trying to acclimate himself at a kind of classic Roman or Greek feast scene with, surrounded by gods and surrounded by Amazons. And he's just like, yeah, I'm not feeling it, and it's so like he's the most out of place guy in the scene and stuff. So that's great. I'm excited. That sounds really cool.
It's absolutely. They go up to Mount Olympus and Zeus is like, why are you investigating this? Like, go away. Obviously, like that's their classic scene. And Batman's like, do you know me? And he goes, there are men, there are gods, and there are Batman. That's like Batman is even known on Mount Olympus, and he's like. And he says to Zeus, he says, give us 24 hours. If we fail, you can sacrifice me to yourself. And so he offers up his own body sort of to solve the problem.
Lego Monster says, I can't wait for the trilogy of the Trinity giving each other presents. In another 40 years, Wonder Woman is the last one yet left.
I would love to. We should keep doing presents. There's no presents in this one. I have to do a separate issue. Again, Guillaume came and said that I don't want to do silly. I want to do serious. And this is super cool and super serious.
2 weeks ago, we got the Trinity special that came out.
Yes. And that's the prelude to a Trinity graphic novel, which is finally coming to stores. The first of a few, which will collect all, for people who haven't been keeping track, Belen Ortega and I have done these comics, which are, for a lack of a better word, fun, which I know is not what people associate with me. I know I'm more about the crying and people looking out the window into the rain. But Belen and I have done these backups that have to do with Trinity, the daughter of Wonder Woman, when she's 6 years old, when she's a teenager, and when she's 20 years old about. And so all of those will be collected. It's done in Belen's unique style, which is this sort of manga European influence, wonderfulness, and that release of that graphic novel is a prelude to our new series we just announced, which is the new Trinity series that Belen and I are doing, which is now on Final Order Cutoff, and it's one of the most fun, one of the best things I've ever done, and it's oddly super personal. Because it's about my daughter, and it's about daughters relating to their fathers, and it's also a story that's about something a lot of people have been asking about, sort of where is Steve? What's happened to Steve? Obviously, in Wonder Woman 12. Well, I'm getting the issues mixed up. Steve gets killed, And so, but that's not his final fate. You see, obviously, he goes to Hades. This is a book about gods. And so, what happens next? Where's that Steve story? That Steve story launches into the Trinity book, which is Trinity is a book about many things, but it's about daughters looking for their father and father looking for his daughters and trying to reconnect.
Very cool. James wants to know if you want to try any other international format of comic storytelling. I mean, like albums, webtoon, manhwa, or manga.
The thing I would most want to try, and it's not international, I would love to do a comic strip. That's
attaboy.
I would just. I'm a huge strip fan. I just spent my vacation reading old Milton Caniff comics, and I adore that format. I adore the 3-panel format. I adore the 4-panel format. I adore the Sunday panel format. At one point, I was trying to pitch. They were like, what do we do with Hanna-Barbera? And I was like, let's make Hanna-Barbera into a newspaper comic. Just let me write a newspaper comic. I still read with my children. I still read the funnies every Sunday, and we pick out our favorite one.
That's great. Which strips are you and the kids reading?
We read Garfield. We read the reprint of Peanuts. We read Zitz.
Of course. Zitz, excellent, yeah.
We read Pearls Before Swine, Nancy. We read Hagar, we read Blondie. They're still there. They're all still there.
Oh yeah.
They're my kids are strip addicted, especially my youngest son. He'll read anything strip. So if you ever catch him, he'll have his face in a Peanuts book or a Calvin and Hobbes book or a Bloom County book. Like that's his love, and that's one of mine too.
I haven't had him on yet, and I keep meaning to bug people to get him to come on Word Balloon. But to me, one of the greatest things that Dio ever did with Chiarello was Wednesday Comics.
Oh God, I love. Before Chiarello left, he was starting to put together Wednesday Comics too, and I was signed up for it, and then he left.
My God, you want to get people back in the shops with an interesting product. I really think another run of Wednesday Comics 2 would be amazing, and I don't know if that means they'd have to rehire Mark or in a kind of that TV way. I'm always hearing that about, as much as we want Star Trek Legacy. If that were to happen, then Metalis has to come back because he really kind of conceived it, and and he's busy doing the Vision series right now for Marvel, and I'm sure he's got a couple other things coming up. So, that's interesting. I don't know. Lego Monster says his favorite strip was Calvin and Hobbes. I'm a massive Calvin and Hobbes fan. He wants to know what your favorite strip of all time was, and I'd say Peanuts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a boring answer. If you consider me an expert on comics, at least I've dedicated to me in terms of comics, in terms of people putting words and pictures together in a comic form. I think Peanuts is the height of the art form. I don't think anyone ever did it better than what Schultz did. I think that's just as good as it can get. And ask me if I own any Peanuts comic strips, and I do not. I don't own a single one. I have chickened out of buying them many times.
How pricey must they be?
Oh, it depends on what's on the strip, but like a normal a daily strip will go between 15 and 30, and a Sunday will go between 50 and 70. So
dollars or 1,500 or whatever.
Oh no, sorry, 1,000. Yeah,
15,000. Yeah, and 30,000. Wow. Yeah. I just had a woman that works for the Schultz brand a couple weeks ago, and she does.
I listened to it.
Oh man, she was so interesting, and I'm gonna have because they told the PR people are like, well, she wants to talk about what's going on now with the brand and the podcast. I'm like, that's cool. She goes, but we'll hook you up with the historian as well. And so I haven't scheduled that. I wanted to kind of space them out. But no, I hear you, man. For adventure strips, I'd be curious what your answer is because we mentioned Alex Raymond before and Caniff, and they're among my favorites. And John Cullen Murphy with, again, I love Joe Palooka. It's a lot of fun. Ham Fisher's great classic comic strip. But the Big Ben Bolt is an adventure series about a prize fighter. And I say prize fighter because it is that period and stuff of the 40s and 50s, and it's great. But yeah, I'm a Steve Canyon fan. Not only do I love Flash Gordon, but also Secret Agent X-15 or whatever it's called. And I have those coffee table books, and I adore those, and I love Rip Kirby. So yeah, from an adventure strip standpoint, do you have a favorite?
This is going to sound dorky, but Walt Simonson and Howard Chaykin agree with me on this, so at least I'm in good company. Best adventure strip is On Stage with Mary Perkins.
Love it. Love it.
That's the best one.
Sure.
The three of us are when we get together. That's if you want to know what three old nerds talk about. Howard, we'll talk about our favorite Leonard Starr, Mary Perkins.
Now, and I love it too. Now, you see, I would consider that more of a romance strip and everything. So.
No, it's disguised as romance, but it's really adventure, man. They're going overseas.
Well, all right, I'm gonna have to dig into it then more. But I absolutely respect. I know a lot of creators that love Leonard Starr's on stage, and I keep telling Howard, just like he did Hey Kids Comics and his love of Broadway and classic Broadway, I'm like, do it on stage, man. And he's like, nah, I got other ideas. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm like, but I go, that to me, that's like, James Blunt says Toth Zorro. Sure. Absolutely. Great.
My favorite on-stage facts, so Leonard Starr was the creator, and he's this very sort of upper class kind of fancy guy who did this strip for 25 years and then did Annie for another 10 years after that. But in his, and he started in 1957 or something. But in the 80s, when he was in probably his 70s, he was asked to create something that people might know, and he did a cartoon. Do you know the cartoon he did?
No.
Thundercats.
No shit. Leonard Starr did Thundercats?
Leonard Starr created Thundercats. The same guy who created On Stage created Thundercats.
I had no idea. My God. And again, I always say Transformers and Thundercats, I absolutely respect all of you that are younger than me that really got into that stuff. I was getting laid back then. That was my teenage years, man. I was dating girls, man. I wanted to, and I was 18. Don't worry, when the late part happened. But even 16 and stuff, it's like, and G.I. Joe, I'm like,
I love me some Thundercats when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah. Although when Mike Jelenic did his Thundercats series, that was only like 13 episodes, and I had Mike on Word Balloon when he and oh my God, James Tucker were doing Batman Brave and Bold cartoons, and he's like, yeah, I'm working on Thundercats. He goes, I think you'll like it. And my buddy Chuck, my wingman, who I was telling you, Tom will be hanging with us at C2E2. Is like, you got to watch this. I know you weren't into Thundercats, but I'm telling you, it's really, really smart and really, really good. And I'm like, all right, I trust your taste. And he was right. And I was like, oh, that's great, man. I go, I know the dude that made this. This is fantastic. So that's amazing to learn that about Leonard Starr and Thundercats. And a couple other people are putting up stuff. JD, good call, man. I just bought a hardcover of 1975's Johnny Hazard by the great Frank Robinson.
Love Johnny.
Man, and I love Frank's work in both Marvel and DC. He did great stuff in the Batman world with Batgirl and Batman himself, a lot more as a writer than an artist. And of course, he drew the Great Invaders strip or comic with Roy Thomas. And I remember Tim early on Word Balloon, me and Tim Bradstreet talking about that Frank Robbins run on Invaders. And I'm like, it was weird and ugly, and I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And Johnny Hazard was much more in the vein of Kniff. Yeah. And Johnny Hazard is very much a Steve Hazard, or rather a Steve Canyon kind of strip, but it's great. And yeah, Frank Robbins is a genius. Bill Reinhold collected this gigantic collection of the Hazard strip. And every now and then on social media, he'll go like, hey, if anybody wants access to it, here it is on Google Drive. Go ahead and grab it. And I do all the time. And it's fantastic. And I, forget it. And it's on an old computer that I've since, kept the hard drive, and it's sitting in a hard drive somewhere on a shelf. And I'm like, no, man, I got to read it now. So I always re-download it. But I love Johnny Hazard. Massive. Yeah,
Jim Lee and I were just talking about this the other day because I was telling him about there's a theory that all of comics comes from Kniff and Alex Raymond, and that's sort of the dividing line. You're a Kniff or you're a Raymond, and that does because the Kniff school led to Johnny Hazard and people like Kirby, which is much more exaggerated. It doesn't look quite human. It doesn't look, but and then the Raymond school was classic lines, and he was trying to and Jim's like, I don't know who I'm from, and then he realized he's like, oh, I modeled myself after Neil Adams, and then we traced, of course, Neil Adams modeled himself after Drake, and then of course Drake modeled himself after Alex Raymond. So Jim could draw a direct line back to Alex Raymond in terms of his own art. And he said, oh, yeah, that's 100% true. I come right out of Alex Raymond's head in terms of influences. He's like, that's the tree I grew out of. So it was fascinating.
Oscar says hello from Spain. Hey, man, welcome.
Hey.
Good to see you. Just wanted to congratulate Tom on his amazing career. And I'd like to ask if he's friends with Jeff Johns.
Yeah, I'm friends with Jeff Johns. He's a cool guy.
Jeff's a great guy. Love Jeff. Absolutely. Yeah. And he's killing it. Ghost Machine's fantastic. I just had Hitch on, as you know, a week or so ago, talking about the Redcoat book. And a lot of the first arcs of the Ghost Machine stuff are finally starting to happen. So if you haven't gotten the single issues, you should go to your store and pick up some of the great stuff that he's doing with a lot of his old creators collaborators from his DC years. So
Jeff was very kind to me very early in my career. He met with me like right before the Batman thing and sat down with me just like on the side and been like, all right, you're going to get Batman. This is what they're going to offer you in your contract. You counter with this, they'll counter with that. That's when you say yes.
Oh,
I was like a baby trader, and I was like, are you sure? And I went in, and it went down exactly as he said, and he'd given me the guidance, and that advice is, I mean, literally, that put food on my kid's table. So I'm eternally grateful for Jeff's help from the very, very beginning of how supportive he was.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Caesar of Rome wants to know, hail Caesar, have you thought about having Trinity meet with Olivia Free?
No, I have not. I'll put it on my list.
There you go, Caesar. Way to go. No check involved in that, Caesar. That's just a free idea that you're throwing out there. And here, Kari says, we had a group of folks to marry. Carrie, is it Carrie or Kari? Carrie, the guys were calling you Carrie last night.
Wait, sorry, my brain's catching up. Olivia Free is Scott Free's daughter. I'm
assuming that. Yeah. That's right. In Rom's New Gods, I'm assuming. Well, or I don't know. The baby's not born yet. I'm not sure.
I always think of Scott Free's kid as Jacob Free because that's what he is in Mr. Miracle, and Jacob is obviously a take on Jack Kirby, who was born Jacob.
I have to confess, I got to catch up because then really in the back of my head when I'm seeing what's coming out from DC, I'm like, I got to get Rom on and get a New Gods update, and also how his New Gods is affecting what's happening in the Absolute universe that obviously Darkseid has conceived. And again, I mean, I know it's early in the story, and I'm glad. I just had Scott on talking about Absolute Batman, and I hope to get Jason on. I've had Kelly on in the past as well, and there's a Kelly question that connects to your Wonder Woman that I'll get to. But I want this to be a slow walk into the bigger story of, okay, when does either the regular DC universe become aware of the Absolute universe or vice versa? And, whatever, by all means, I want everyone to tell their individual stories. But I love this idea. And, whatever's happening in the New Gods has to be affecting the Absolute universe at some point, I would think.
Yes. And, these are answers. You're saying things I know the answers to. I'm not to tell you the answer.
Good, because I don't want my Christmas presents before the 25th. It's mentioning
there are definitive plans for all this stuff. And
I'm sure.
I can't be the energy that Absolute brought to the DC universe is a miracle and a gift and is wonderful. My God. Well, I think the comics are great, and that's why it's working, because it's incredible creators doing some of the best work of their careers. And I just think it's so exciting. It's blowing me away.
No, man, it's a big roll of the dice, and truly everything. I mean, we just got the first issue of Absolute Flash from Lemire. We just got Dennis Camp's first issue of Absolute Martian Manhunter. And no, Kelly and Scott and Jason have been killing it with their first arcs and stuff like that. So no, and I'm sure people always want to know, and maybe you've answered this in our previous conversations, if you have any Absolute stuff in the works.
No, not right now. If you'll notice, I write a lot and I write ahead. So you've seen me very. My daughter needs to print something, and the only printer is in my room right here. So she's texting me now, being like, "Can I come in the room to print something down?" It's very cute. And so you might see my daughter make a surprise appearance on Word Balloon. Because of the Hollywood stuff, which we've talked about offline, it's really gearing up now. There's just a ton going on in that arena. And so I had to pare my writing down to just a few things, and I pared it down to sort of Wonder Woman.
Sure.
And so at this point, my schedule is tight. It's super tight.
Yeah.
I love to play in that universe. It sounds super cool, but no plans at this time.
Okay. Are you? And again, I'm going to get back into Lantern TV territory. Are you guys still writing? I know shooting is starting, But yeah, are you still writing?
There's the printer going.
Oh, no worries.
No, I don't think I'm allowed to talk. I don't think I'm allowed to answer that. It's a good question, but I don't think I'm allowed to answer.
Fair enough. Let's see here. Let's see where else. Dennis Hoffman says, "What a pleasant surprise, Tom. Loving Black Canary. When are you and Mitch getting the band back together? Also, where in the world is Doc Shaner?" He's saying when, but I assume he's meaning when in the world is Doc Shaner.
I'm handing the printing to my daughter. He's coming up.
Oh, it's all good. And I assumed he was time traveling when he asked when in the world is Doc Shaner.
I like when in the world is Doc Shaner. That sounds like the new hit comedy from CBS.
Or a Carmen Sandiego spinoff.
Yeah. Our Mitch and I, yes. Mitch and I have plans to work together in the future. He's my best friend in comics and maybe in the world. I adore the guy and I will do anything he wants. He had an amazing opportunity from a guy named James Gunn to work on this Vigilante book. And with another one of my best friends, Tim Seeley, doing the writing.
Yeah.
And the book is freaking beautiful and amazing and just came out this week. It's a Vigilante book. That takes place between the two seasons of Peacemaker, and it's great. And so once he's done with that, Mitch and I are already sort of making our machinations and deciding sort of our next project. We have a few things in mind, and I think they're going to be awesome, and we'll announce them as soon as we can. When in the world, Doc Shaner is working on a secret project, and I'm sure he'll tell you about it when he wants to tell you about it. I have seen pages from the secret project, and it's amazing.
Tom, and I realize that your experience was specifically Iraq, and forgive me because I might be sounding like an ugly American, lumping a lot of the Middle East as one big idea. But given yours and Mitch's run on Sheriff of Babylon, do current events inspire any sort of real world stories, new real world stories that you might be thinking about?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. I take from real world stories all the time. Yeah, I obviously have the bizarre experience of spending whatever was 8 years in the CIA doing counterterrorism in my 20s, and I think that sort of clouds how I see all of these things and how I interpret them, and I think there are many stories that should be told about what's going on right now, and I don't know if I'm the right person to tell them. But I'm interested in finding a way to talk about sort of those themes.
And I gotta ask because truly and sorry folks, I am gonna put a little politics in here. The whole Signal war plan flap, really, I mean, and it really should be a bipartisan outrage of all of us. I mean, the citizens. I know the Congress has to cover Trump's ass. Fine. And thank God the Democrats got their teeth back and are like, wait a minute. And good, because I watched those hearings. I've watched the coverage. I've watched the comments. Nothing angers me more. As someone that has been involved with intelligence, do you want to comment? You don't have to, but I'll give you the opportunity. I can only imagine. But yeah, I mean, as someone who really was in the thick of it and dealing with sensitive material on a daily basis, I can't imagine.
I mean, I think I can just add some facts to it that if I was in a situation like that, if I had done what those people had done as a citizen, as they are citizens of this country, with the security clearance I had, I would have been obviously summarily fired and I would have been prosecuted and put in jail. And that's every single person who has a security clearance knows that. And that's not a secret, but that's the way the world is supposed to work and should work.
Have you ever operated in a skiff?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Yeah. What can you describe it? And forgive me for the tangent, everybody, but really, I mean, I've seen, West Wing, The Situation Room, and other, movies and TV where, shit's going down and the president needs to meet with his military advisors and everyone's in a circle, or Spy Game, that wonderful, all those great scenes. Sure. In Spy Game and stuff like that. By the way, I on my Facebook feed, I always am getting these things about there's like a new novel that is like the next chapter in Brad Pitt's character's world, Tom Chappell. And I'm like, I'm vaguely interested in that. I got to admit, it is sort of intriguing of what could happen next to Brad Pitt's character. Of course, I loved Redford's character as well. But I mean, again, you gotta put your phone. You can't have your phone in the skiff and anything like that. And
Yeah, I mean, a skiff is just a fancy word for a room where you're allowed to talk about things where people aren't, where you're allowed to talk clearly about things in the assurance that there's no way someone can be listening in on your conversation, which means that the room has been swept for bugs, which means the walls are thick enough to block certain foreign things, which means, you know, any device that's coming into the room has been checked. So yeah, you're not allowed to have phones. You're not allowed to have certain items, because the idea is this is a entirely safe space where no one can listen to you.
Gotcha. And you can have conversations skiff to skiff, right? I mean, you can have conversations where you're not all in one room, but you're communicating with people in other locations that are also secure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, very good. All right, that's it. That's my signal questions. I'm moving on. You know, Danielle, and I agree with you, Danielle. Two of the best comics. Well, she says the best superhero comics today are Wonder Woman and Absolute.
Isn't that wonderful? What a golden age for Wonder Woman. I could not be a bigger fan of Absolute Wonder Woman. I think it's just such a perfect book. I think the art is wonderful. I think Kelly is absolutely curating. I think she's doing something completely different than what we're doing, and she's capturing this sort of rebellious spirit of Wonder Woman, which is the thing I love most about Wonder Woman. And I think she's killing it. Please pick up that book. I know you're already pick up 2 copies. It's fucking a wonderful book. It's brilliant.
Pablo says, finally, a King's Speech I can watch live. Love from Spain. Another Pearson from Spain. This is why I love doing afternoon live conversations, to give the rest of the world a chance to watch live when we do these things. And, you know, Hitch and I had to record, but I forget. I did something else recently that was in the afternoon, you know. So, Mike Gold yesterday, too, and I'll be playing the audio of that later this week.
Mike Gold, awesome.
Oh, I love Mike.
I will be listening to that.
One of my favorite people. All right, Carrie, and thank you, Carrie. All right, I will.
Hello to Spain. Thank you so much. I work with so many Spanish artists now. I don't know what's in the water there, but please keep drinking it. Between Daniel Sempor and Belina Ortega, like my main artists now are working in Spain, and they're killing it.
I'm assuming Carrie is talking about King Faraday, but will it be safe to use a Faraday cage for making sure nothing would accidentally be able to be broadcast out, or is that overkill for something for TV? Oh, is that a does King Faraday have like a skiff? Is that a Faraday skiff? The Faraday.
The best way to do it, as anyone who's watched Get Smart knows, is you get a tunnel and you wrap yourself in a bubble and you get a little tube and you put the other guy in the bubble tunnel, and that's
there you go. Mine is skiff. Yes,
that's the best
way. I demand a cone of silence, Hegseth. Max, the cone of silence isn't working. I've been on Saturday night's Catchy Comedy. I still have, you know, digital TV, and they've been running the first season of Get Smart, and there are episodes that I don't remember, and it's like, oh my god, I never saw this one. That's fantastic. So they had one where they go back to, like, they go to a spy old people's home, and the woman that played Grandma Walton years before the Waltons is one of the old spies. I'm like, oh my god, that's Ellen Corey. That's fantastic. So hilarious.
Get Smart always reminds me when I was a kid. I was in 7th grade and I had this biology or like test the next day or something. I decided to pull my first all-nighter, first of many in school. And to keep myself up, I turned on Nick at Night and it was Get Smart. And instead of studying for biology, I watched Get Smart for 12 hours in a row.
Carrie explains a Faraday cage or Faraday shield is an enclosure used to block some electronic fields. Oh, there you go, man. I didn't realize that.
Still not as good as a cone of silence. Sorry.
I understand. Talking comics with Gorminator. Will Gotham City Year 1 ever get a deluxe edition? Greetings from Scotland. Europe is coming out to watch us, Tom.
My feelings on Gotham City Year 1 are projected wide and into the world. It's my most fun I've ever had writing anything. I could not have. I enjoyed it so much. I begged DC to let me do more, to release more editions. That obviously a book that has no superheroes, that takes place in the 60s, wasn't a huge bestseller. So
sure.
DC's always like, no, we want you to do Superman, Batman,
right?
And all I can say is please buy more copies of it, because as soon as DC greenlights anything, I will support that book in any way I can, because I think it's one of the best things I ever wrote, and it's the thing I had the most fun writing ever. I love it. And I have an idea for a sequel. I've pitched it to DC. They like it. I just got to convince him to make it. It's Metropolis year one.
Oh wow, that's great.
And
man.
it's a John Suntress inspired book because I'm going to do it about boxing.
Oh wow, dude, my man. I've told you my ideas for like Wildcat in the 50s, post JSA, and
I'm going to do it. Yeah, I want to do
young Perry White, young Roy Raymond.
I want to do something that's about boxing in the 60s in Metropolis. I have this idea. It's good. I'm going to do it someday.
That's outstanding, man. Well, anybody?
See, I'm saying all these things, and then like 20 seconds ago, I said I have too much work and I can only write these books, and yet I'm still trying to get more. I'm not a sane man, John. That's my problem.
But I always say, man, Slam Bradley in particular, and I realize your story's set in the 60s. He is a literally like foundational DC character that I understand the superheroes got bigger. Exactly, and it's Siegel and Schuster. No, was it Siegel and Schuster or Finger
Siegel and Schuster? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was Siegel and Schuster doing a detective, and it's great. It's great, and the idea, and then truly, what you did with him, what Brubaker and poor who passed away, and I'm not blanking. Yeah, Darwin Cook, all that stuff, man. In Catwoman, yeah, it's like no, and again. It's very easy to position him. Really, with what they're doing with JLU, I wouldn't mind them being really stuck on some sort of mystery problem. And I'll put the bug in Wade's ear that, hey, let's get the guy who trained Batman and all these other people on detective skills. And again, that's why I love Wildcat, because he trained so many of the fighters and everything. It's like, no, man, Slam's the man. And I loved when Batman and Slam were fighting over Catwoman. It's like that. Yeah, that's cool. And also that Selena loved Slam enough to like be interested in a man that was slightly older than him, but and nothing inappropriate. And that's what I'm talking about, everybody. It's just Slam has all this knowledge and is this world-weary guy. He is the trench coat guy of the DC universe. I also love Dr. Occult, and I'm glad he showed up in JLU. Wow. Another formative year one DC character.
To connect this back to the adventure strips we were just talking about, in year one, Gotham City year one, Slam Bradley is obviously modeled after Rip Kirby, who you talked about.
Yes.
If that was a callback, because that's why he's wearing those glasses and smoking a pipe the whole time. That's a sort of an Alex Raymond a Rip Kirby knockoff. Or tribute. Sorry, not knockoff, tribute. To Rip Kirby.
There you go. New Jersey checking in. There you go. New Jersey strong. Arbaz Khan says, excited to get a chance to watch the King's Speech live. Cheers from New Jersey.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's very kind of you.
This is interesting. James wants to know, what DC city would you feel safest
in? Sorry, I live in Washington, D.C. I was like, oh my God, well, we're just one city. Which city would I feel safest in? I mean, Central City seems, out there, sort of in the Midwest.
Yeah, I was gonna say Blue Valley, even though Jeff Stargirl had a lot of bad things happening on that TV series in Blue Valley. But yeah, that would be my vote. Would be Blue Valley. I think we can just all agree that Coast City is the worst. I think. Oh, no.
Because you every like 20 years you just get entirely wiped out.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. But yeah, I don't know. And I know they make Bloodhaven scuzzy, and they make various cities scuzzy. I got to go with, and it's funny because I was just talking about the question with somebody, and I'd say Hub City. Oh, it was with Mike. It was with Mike Golden.
As the toughest city. That's
yeah. Well, just that the armpit that everybody gave up on. You know what I mean? And that's why Vic is so alone. And especially when Denny O'Neil and Sienkiewicz and Dennis Cowan were doing the question and stuff, and Mike was editing. It's like, yeah, that's kind of we give up. Yeah, I know with No Man's Land they blew up the bridges and everything, but it's like there's no saving Hub City.
So the way Trinity works, this series I'm doing, it's very absurd. I can't explain this in a logical way, so I'm just going to say it out loud. What happens is the Trinity are these. We have a union between all three of them. The teenager, the younger one, and the adult. And what they find out is each of them have a Batman and Robin who are with them as part of their training, and all of those Batman and Robins have been turned into corgis and have been lost in time. I told you I'd just say it out loud so we could get through it. And so the three Trinities, the three Lizzies, have to chase after their super and bat corgis that have been lost in DC continuity. And that's the series, is them chasing these corgis. And the first one takes place during Crisis on Infinite Earth. It's called Crisis on Infinite Corgis. And these I get paid to write these books, John. These are like actual things that happen. And but the second one takes place in the Death in the Family timeline, and it's called A Corgi in the Family. And it's and then they go back and they chase the corgi into Gotham. And I had to do this opening in Gotham. I was like, what if you open on Gotham on one image, what would the image be? And I was like, we're looking in the sewer, there's a rat and he's got a finger in his mouth and he's pedaling across the street. I was like, that's Gotham City right there. A rat with
I respect that. Yeah. Hilarious. Movie question from Aiden. Are you still immune to the charms of the legendary George Raft?
Oh, are we going to go off? Yes. Oh my God, yes. I recently did a George Raft dive.
Okay. Which ones?
God, who can remember? They all have these terrible names.
Red Door. I like
Race
Red Door.
Street.
Which one?
Race Street.
Yeah.
And Red Door.
I like. I do like Red Door.
Nocturne, which was the one I like.
Sure. The one Passage to Something, that's kind of a Casablanca sort of attempt. After he passed on Casablanca. Way to go, George.
He did a few noirs in the early 40s, and he did a series of like 10 of them in the late 40s. And I'm trying to watch as many noirs as I can. I don't know why. It's just like a test I'm giving myself. And so I was like,
it's set in Aleppo, the city in Turkey that the one presidential candidate had no idea what Aleppo was.
Yeah, I don't know if I watched. I watched. Oh, and then there's the one with Claire Trevor I just watched that was utterly terrible. I love her. Yeah, she's the best. And in all of them, he's kind of a stolid guy, and he is the worst actor who's ever been on screen.
He is.
He's utterly terrible. He was only on screen. You can only assume because he was a mob. He had incredible mob connections.
Yeah, big mob ties. Mob ties.
And he makes everything he touches worse. And even he came into Hollywood as a dancer. That was like his first thing.
Yes.
He was known as like, because he danced the bolero and
big ballroom dancer and not tap everybody. We're talking about like real
dance. Fancy ballroom dancing. And occasionally he'll do some dancing, and he's even terrible at that. Even that he's stiff and terrible at.
Well, he's in the Jerry Lewis movie, The Ladies' Man. He has like one scene because Jerry's the houseboy for all these aspiring actresses, and George Raft is dating one of them, and Jerry's character and he plays himself. And Jerry's just like, you're not George Raft. Give me a break. I'm the biggest George Raft fan. And he's like, let me see you flip a coin like in Scarface. And he fumbles. He's like, yeah, right. George Raft would never fumble. Things like that. And he's like, what can I do? He goes, well, I used to dance in movies. How about we dance? And all of a sudden, with Jerry being the woman, they this ballroom dance that is just fantastic. And I'm serious. And listen, I'm hit and miss with Jerry Lewis movies. The Ladies' Man is crazy funny. And that is a great scene. And it's like, okay. And of course, in Some Like It Hot, he's the big gangster.
Yes, I was gonna say he's decent in Some Like It Hot just because they're kind of making fun of him.
Right.
He's decent in Scarface, but I don't think he's that good in that movie.
Oh no, he's a cigar. I mean, forgive me, everybody. I don't mean this in a pejorative way, but he is. He's a cigar store Indian. He's really this kind of wooden kind of guy. He's just Red Door and some of these movies we're talking about. It's like, oh God. I mean, and again, I can't imagine him in Casablanca. You're getting on that plane. All right. No. Yeah. No, I mean, he's dead man crap.
Yeah, he was supposed to be Maltese Falcon. He's a terrible actor. There's nothing. He's always in these movies that could be good, where he's like I talk about Nocturne is a very good movie. Probably my favorite George Raft movie, and it's this great movie about. It starts off with this murder and the guy, but the only. And it turns out this guy's this huge womanizer. So he slept with like 20 women, and he has to kind of track down all these women. And as he's doing this, he's like, why? And he lives with his mother at home. And he's like, why is he this guy? And it should be this movie about a guy being obsessed with another man's life and trying to, but he can't convey any of that. Like all he can convey is, no, stop. And then one point, like one guy like hangs himself, and he sees the guy hanging. And he's like, oh no, he's hanging from, like, it's terrible. It's the worst. He is the worst thing at the center of a movie. One of Hollywood's most terrible actors. It's amazing he got work. That's all. It's the bash on George Raft hour. I could. Who
I hear
else
you,
do you want me
man.
to bash on?
Well, and also, I mean, first of all, we're closing in at 2 hours, and I know eventually you're going to have to go, but I do want to talk about Black Canary before we wrap up. And man, it is so good, and
You just love that because you're in it.
No, yeah, and I do. I won't deny. Me and Mike Cronenberg are the play-by-play people as Canary and Lady Shiva are fighting each other. But it really is more for me about this relationship between Dinah and her mother. Now, forgive me and clarify for me. Older Black Canary, is she also Dinah, and is young Dinah Jr.?
Yes, it's Dinah and Dinah. It's Drake and Lance.
Okay, yes, of course. So yeah, I'll call them Drake and Lance. Drake being the Golden Age Canary, and Lance being current Canary.
Yeah,
I'm so glad, and I don't know when in DC continuity they finally did say no, because again, for people who don't know, when they brought the JSA back in the '60s. It was we didn't know, but she was part of the JSA, and then all of a sudden, and I don't even remember if there was a story, but she jumped from Earth. It seemed like she jumped from Earth 2 to Earth 1, started her relationship with Green Arrow, and it was always my husband Larry passed away. Obviously, now being retconned as Lance being the Larry Drake original Golden Age Black Canary. And Drake being the original Golden Age
that's
Black
right.
Canary, and Lance being the Earth 1 current modern Canary. So it is great to see in this story Drake training Lance, and even both of them being in costume. And it's one of my favorite moments in issue 5 of Lance taking care of a crook, and all right, what did I do wrong? And mom's right, and mom's right there to tell her. And also sadly, Drake is apparently is dying in a hospital bed, and so she's prepared to go away. Lance is not ready to break for her mom. So that relationship is really great in this story.
Yeah, I mean it's a funny book because it's a very violent, very bloody book about two people beating the shit out of each other for 6 issues. Drawn by one of the best artists in comics, Ryan Sook, who is putting his all into this book. I just saw the final art on issue 6. It's mind-blowing. And yet it's actually just kind of, it's at its heart, it's a character story about a mother and a daughter. I mean, that's what it's about. And it's about it in a complicated way. It's not about the easy answers of what it means to carry on your mother's legacy, how that pressure both like intimidates you and crushes you and hurts you, and yet also lifts you and loves you and carries you, and how both of those things exist at the same time in the complicated way humans exist, and that you love your parents and hate your parents at the same time, and those two things struggle within you, and you rebel against them, but in rebelling against them, you're kind of doing what they want because they want you to become a complete person. So you're not, and then that even makes you more frustrated. Like all of the complications of what it means to be a child and what it means to be a parent are in this book. That's still at its heart about two people punching each other in the face.
That's great, man. No, the one episode of the Birds of Prey TV series from 25 years ago that I'm like, oh, that's interesting, is when, and I can't even remember which actress it was that played. Maybe it was Lori Lightner or whatever from Full House or whatever her name is.
I know,
but it was Black Canary's mom as Black Canary, and like it was the same thing where she was playing the Drake character, and the kid was the modern character and stuff, learning to be a hero. And no, I'm like, oh, there she is. There's Black Canary. And I mean, as you know, and I'm sure you're the same way. Those original Toth Golden Age stories that he did are just iconic, and that's why the character endures, and that's why I respected the times that they've given Canary costume changes. I remember during the Giffen DeMatteis, Kevin era of
shoulder pads.
Yeah, and that weird like full body suit. I'm sorry, everybody. She needs to be in the bustier. She needs to be in the fishnets. It's part of it is also perhaps to distract a villain, and all of a sudden checking out the broad that's kicking his ass and everything. I'm sorry, I that's where my misogynistic knuckle dragging brain goes. So right now, Julie Benson's turning this off. This conversation's over.
Well, I mean, I can't speak high enough for how Ryan Sook draws both her and her mother.
Yeah.
And
look, I mean, my God,
captures her strength, captures her beauty, captures her vulnerability, captures her messiness. and captures her perfection. Like he gets it all from panel to panel, page to page. It's that's who Black Canary is. She's not simple. She's not pure good, and she's far from evil. She's got a life and she kicks ass.
Brooklyn, man, I respect what you're saying, and I'm glad you're joining us, but can't wait to see your Hollywood stuff. But are you going to have time to write more comics aside from Warner? He's doing it.
Yes, I am. I'm addicted to comic writing. It is more fun. I've been a novelist. I've written for video games now. I've written for a TV show, obviously. I've written for movies. And I've done everything except plays. And comics are the most fun. They're where I was born. They're where I raised. There's where I just went on vacation. I was reading a Lobo comic the whole time. I'm addicted to this medium. I'm addicted to writing for this medium, and it's my happy place. As much as I go away from it to do whatever Hollywood stuff, this is where my heart is with this fandom, with this genre, with writing and reading this. That's where I live. That's where I go to. It's both my comfort and my challenge.
Nayat Albuquerque says, "What video games?"
Oh, I can't tell you, but they're.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, soon to be. Zarluna wanted to know if True Detective is influencing if you like it, and what is it influenced perhaps other. Or how did it and other noirs influence Lanterns, if it did?
I'm not speaking to what influenced Lanterns, but I do like True Detective.
That's cool. Really, every iteration so far?
I mean, I have opinions, but you don't want me to tell you like I didn't like this and I didn't like that, because I'm gonna run into that actor. I'm gonna run into that showrunner at some party, and they're all listening to Word Balloon.
I am honestly, they're not all listening, but I am stunned. When I in fact, Mitch and I were talking about Phil Lamar from Mad TV, and of course Marvin from Pulp Fiction and everything. And I had him on, okay, fine, a couple times, and I saw him at Terrificon like 2 years ago, and I was sitting with Franco, and I'm like, "Hey Phil, you probably don't remember me, but I'm John from Word Balloon." He's like, "John, I just heard your Neil Adams tribute. Yes, I listened to you," and I'm like, "Well, thanks, man." I'm like, "That's really nice. I appreciate that." And I remember for the first conversation, he's like, "I'm a big comic book fan." He goes, "I was checking out your list." He goes, "You talk to everybody." I'm like, "I try." And I go, "Well, that's what happens when you've been doing this for almost 20 years. Dude, closing in on 20. May 5th or May 10th.
I was there from the beginning, John. I was one of the first listener. That's how old I am.
We hopefully I'm trying to convince, because I don't need a cake. I don't need anything. But I'm like with Mitch at Terrificon, one panel. 120th anniversary panel. I didn't put in for one at C2E2, and it's probably my fault. Thank God I'm doing this Svengoolie panel.
If you're doing a Terrificon, let me host it. Let me interview.
Well, yeah, maybe that's a way to frame a conversation about you or whatever. Because again, it doesn't.
Not to frame me. We've done this before. I have interviewed you before. It's not.
You have.
I would be happy
my 9th anniversary. Yes,
to give you the spotlight that you give so many creators. If Terrificon,
well, again, I don't. Well,
and we'll have special guests. We'll do It's Your Life. We'll be like,
I don't want to. I really don't want to waste 15 people showing up at Terrificon. I mean, the great thing about doing the Svengoolie panel and a panel for you and stuff, you guys fill the room, and that's what that's what the conventioneers want, and I respect that. So believe me,
I have done panels in my life where there are 3 people in the audience. And 2 of them are other people that should be on the panel, and you just invite them up. I have done all of them.
Well, I know Carrie and the Splash Pages people will probably video it, and I know they're rooting for me, and I appreciate that. She says it would be a fun panel. Hey man, that's great. Again, we'll see. But yeah, no, if anything, let's do another John Con like we did during COVID.
Oh, anytime.
And with the Bensons and everybody, man, truly. I can't thank you guys enough, because those were the times that I got to meet for the first time Chris Cantwell and Vita Ayala and so many others that have come on Word Balloon since. And it's like, oh, that's great, man. And it was great. It was just a good fun hang. It really wasn't about me. It was just all of us like, let's all just have a good 4-hour hangout, and it was fantastic. I loved it, and I thought it was great that we had so many different diverse creators coming on and talking and everything. It was terrific. So again, so those are the 2 assignments for the Bensons. Let's do another Jack Con. And
Henry Thomas from ET and Witness is going to be at Terrificon, And
Correct.
he's not going to remember this, but we were friends at camp when we were like,
oh, you got to totally come up
7
to
years
him.
old. We
Yeah,
went
but
to
you.
Beverly Hills YMCA together when we were little kids.
Well, you know, I was a
I have to
little.
remember, see if he remembers.
Oh, you got to, man. I'm going to talk to him about Psycho 4 when he's young Norman Bates with Olivia Hussey as the mom. Crazy.
Did Anthony Perkins direct Psycho 4?
Yes, he did. He did, and it's like he kind of bookends the movie as adult Norman and everything, which was cool. I have a lot of respect for Perkins. That poor guy had to be in the closet for pretty much a big portion of his life. And I don't know if you ever saw the Tab Hunter documentary. It's really sad because they had a relationship, and Hunter's people convinced one of them broke the other's heart. I could be getting it wrong, but one of them was convinced by their management. You need to be more on the down low and get away. And I know that Anthony did marry a woman, but I do know that, and I guess maybe he was bisexual. I don't know. Again,
well, his son is doing very well. Obviously, Oz Perkins is a huge director in Hollywood now.
There you go. Yeah, but
no. And his father is obviously a big radio actor and stuff.
Tony Perkins or
yeah, isn't Anthony Perkins' dad like a famous?
Oh, I don't know. The grandfather of the kid, the Oswald,
Osgood Perkins.
Osgood.
Yeah, he was.
But I don't know who his grandfather was. I don't know.
Osgood Perkins. I'm telling you, Osgood Perkins.
Oh, it's also named Osgood Perkins.
Yes,
I gotta look him up.
That's his grandfather. He was.
Okay.
He's an old movie actor. You kind of find he's a character actor.
Wow. Okay. Well, a lot of them did go back and forth from film. Howard Duff, great noir actor. Radio Sam Spade. I was saying that when Clive Owen was doing his Sam. Did you see that, by the way, the miniseries?
I did, and I have bones to pick because you love this series.
I did. I did love it. I thought it was really cool.
And I thought it was fantastic. Here I am. I'm just going to say I'm not going to say anything bad.
Well, what bones are you going to pick? We can talk off the air if you can't.
I thought the ending was awful.
Okay.
I thought it was so good. And in the last episode, they just had a random CIA lady come in and explain everything. And then it was like Deus Ex CIA. I've never seen.
I respect that.
I was so disappointed in the ending. I thought it was so good up to that point. I was like, I cannot believe I am watching what I am watching. My mind was boggled.
Did you? And now we're back to inspired by governmental events. Did you see 0 Day, the De Niro miniseries that is on Netflix?
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I really like it, and the ending didn't turn me off, but I did feel the ending was bloated. And after the main conflict was resolved, it really had 15 minutes of, okay, this is nothing, and you really could have just you've as I always say, rob the bank and get the fuck out of the bank after you got the money. Don't waste time. And
that was Billy Wilder's, like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, get the fuck out of stage.
Yeah. Well,
it's funny we talk about it because I was just thinking about that today with Black Canary. I just read the last issue and I was like, I was surprised at where it ended, and I was like, oh, I was taking some Billy Wilder advice. I didn't kind of do a denouement. I ended it and got off stage. I'm wondering if it's good or bad. I don't know.
This is interesting from Brooklyn Man. He also says, by the way, Dangerous Street was the funniest thing he's ever written. More people should read it in trade. I love Dangerous Street, as you know. But he wants to know, was the Sandman Diner issue an influence on the Jenny Sparks series? I haven't read the last issue, but the Jenny Sparks issue reminded me of it.
No, it wasn't. In fact, I was worried that people would think it was. It was more influence, and we actually talked about this on a word balloon. It comes from this. There's an old noir. I steal from old movies all the time, obviously, as we've talked about. I think it's like Call, and it's one of those like Call and has a phone number. So I'm gonna get the phone number wrong. Call 01977 or something like that. And it takes place entirely in a bar where a crazy person has gone into a bar and takes everyone in the bar hostage, and they sort of have to find a way to get it out. So it was inspired by that old movie, which may have also inspired the people who did that Sandman issue. So maybe the two of us are drawing from the same bucket.
There you go. Brian, Ackerman wants to know, he's had a few short prose stories published in Ahoy Comics. Hey, congratulations, man.
Hey, awesome. Well done.
Yeah. Any advice for a writer wanting to find more opportunities in comics to build on from there? I hope that Ahoy taking your prose stories has given you some opportunities there to maybe write some stuff for there. Because honestly, I know Ahoy's a smaller publisher, and obviously I want Tom's answer, but they are doing very interesting creative stuff. and they will be at Terrificon this weekend. And they're really Tom Pyre and all those guys. Hart Seeley is, I believe, the money guy behind Hoy. But no, I think it's one of the best new. Everything that Mark Russell does there is incredible. Stuart Moore is also doing great stuff. But yeah, any thoughts to help Brian out?
Well, it's so funny because this is a very small world question. Because my first thought was, you're exactly where I was 13 years ago, 14 years ago. Because I wrote my novel, which got published, but nobody bought it. And then I was lost, and I was actually thinking of going back in the agency. And at that point, I got a gig for Valiant doing short prose stories. It was for Amazon, and it was Stuart Moore and I were the two people they hired. So we went to dinner. I had known Stuart because I'd interned at Vertigo when he was there, and we vaguely knew. I knew him. He didn't know who the fuck that intern was. Because he used to be an editor at Vertigo, sort of the heights of the Vertigo days, and so I did to make money between getting hired on Grayson and my book coming out, which was a 2-year gap. And you can still find them on Amazon. I'm sure they're awful. I did these Valiant short prose stories. You can buy them for 99 cents or something.
Were they original or were they Valiant characters?
They were Valiant characters, and they paid it. I can't even remember who the characters were. I don't know. Right. I'm sure I remember they were I gave them very artsy fartsy titles. They're lost Tom King works if you want, but they're there. If you I can't remember anything about the stories at all, zero. And so I was exactly where you were. It's like, I can just tell you what I did, which was I started going to cons and tabling everywhere I could and meeting as many people as I could and collecting cards and following up and being like, here's an example of my work. Can I get anything? Can I get, and just following up and being polite, but being persistent. You got to do both of those things at the same time. And then eventually I got my break, which was an 8-pager at Vertigo. With Karen Berger gave me that break under the great Mark Doyle. And
it is a lot tougher to obviously give somebody, although they're short prose stories, so maybe that is easier. But yeah, I can appreciate an unknown writer who even being published, that it's harder.
I used to go from I always would and this is this requires some money, not a lot of money, but I would obviously go into Artist Alley, and then I would go from table to table. And I would buy something at the table, like a comic. I just spent like $10 at each table, and I would give them a copy of my book. People do this to me today, and I would have my card in, and I'd sign. I'd be like, "This is kind of," and 99% of the people throw it out, but 1% of the people actually do read it and pay attention. And that, I did that to Scott Snyder, to Walt Simonson. I think the only person that ever turned me down, he did it very, very politely, was Mike Mignola, who was like, "No thanks, kid. I'm not going to do anything with it," which was wonderful. He was just very honest.
Yeah.
And so just don't, as long as you don't approach Mike Mignola, you're good to go. just go to cons, meet people, give out your story, and work. You have the thing, you have the calling card. Now you got to get your feet on the floor and go.
And honestly, Brian, I would say smaller shows too, you might have more time to get better access, because it is kind of tough at San Diego, at New York, at even C2E2 potentially. I'm not, maybe not as bad, but really, I would say a show like Ithacon, and obviously you already got the in at Ahoy, but Dynamite people are going to be at Ithacon as well. I don't know if you're in the upstate New York area, but those kind of the CAFs and the small, or even I was hearing from Dean Haspiel last night and Vito Del Sante about a small show that Brooklyn high schools were putting on and stuff. And it's like, no, that's where you might have a chance to get a little more, time, and that they've got more time to really give you more than a very cursory, yeah, thanks or no thanks. So, by the way, Mark Wade watching us and has this burning Wonder Woman question. Wonder Woman, daughter of Zeus or a clay brought to life? And Mark, I want to point out that I am not imitating your voice for a change like I normally do.
Wait, Mark's trying to get me in trouble. He knows I'll get in trouble. Well, as you know, if you've been reading Wonder Woman, Mark, like I read World's Finest and Justice League, we have brought back the clay brought to life.
Yeah, I'm with the clay. I listen, no disrespect. Was it Azarella that did Zeus?
I mean, there's different origin stories. Obviously,
Yeah,
it got used in the movie, so it depends on if you use the movie version.
Yeah, forget. Yeah, and I love Gal Gadot. I'm sorry that she is getting shit hammered for Snow White, but it's no, and she's a great Wonder Woman, and it's that again that's Patty Jenkins and the writers that made was Heinberg one of the writers on the Wonder Woman movie, wasn't he?
The first one, yeah.
Yeah, Alan. I love Alan. I miss Alan. But no, I've always been a Clay guy.
I love Young Avengers. If you guys haven't read it,
oh my god! And also his years doing. In fact, they just republished it a couple of weeks ago. His when we were talking, he was still a writer and one of the showrunners on Grey's Anatomy, and one of the funniest things ever. Oh, there you go. Wade's like Clay. Yes, indeed. Any interpretation of Wonder Woman where she needs a man is just bullshit. Couldn't have said it better, Mark. Well said. Absolutely. Look at Tom's demurring because he doesn't want to get a knuckle sandwich from Azzarello next weekend when we're all. I don't know if they're going to be there. I don't know if Steph and Azzarello are going to be there this weekend. I'm not sure.
Azzarello, another person who was very nice to me early in my career.
Great guy. No,
at the time, he was consulting on DC, and I did this book Omega Man that nobody was reading. And he came up to me and said, "Omega Man, that's the shit." I mean, he didn't say that's the shit, but he gave me that sort of vote of confidence I needed.
That's excellent, man.
Yeah.
It was either Bradstreet or Azzarello told me the story about him and Steranko. Like it was a group of guys, and either Steranko walked up or Azzarello walked up, and regardless, Steranko went to Azzarello and he goes, "Hey, Azzarello, hold on, let me give you a second." And he put his arm around. He goes, "We got to talk." And they walk away. He's like, "Oh God, I'm gonna get killed by Steranko." And so Bride comes back. He's like, "What'd he say? What'd he say?" He goes, "Well, he likes 100 bullets." He goes, "But I should." He goes, "It should take longer than me taking a shit to read an issue of one of your books. I love 100 bullets, but that's my issue with it." And it's like, all right, that's Steranko. That's totally a Steranko comment.
That's a bizarre comment. 100 bullets. I think of that as being a fairly dialogue heavy book. I read that when I was an intern at DC Comics. I read the first issue before it came.
Oh wow!
The script being very detailed. Yeah.
Oh no, I love Eduardo and I love Riso. They're great, and especially Riso is such a sweet man. He's such
he is. Yes, I had dinner with him once. My
man.
God, and the whole time I spent trying to convince him
to draw something and be on man.
And he's like, I've got the project, and he's had projects for the.
Well, and he makes his own books too. I mean, beyond collaborating with Az and the people that he does collaborate with.
No, he's absolutely brilliant.
Oh, that's hilarious. Man, Wade, you're on fire. If you can't tell the difference between Steranko and Azzarello, ask yourself which one is mostly wig. He is right. Listen, I love Jim. I love Jim's presentation. I feel
like he's trying to make fun of Azzarello's beard. He's saying that might be fake. I feel like that might be the 100.
I don't think so. Listen, I do. I mean, Jim's he's not 90 yet, but I know he's definitely well into his 80s. And listen, and I know, unfortunately, I'm not crazy about Grandpa's political opinions. And I say that with all the respect that I have, because I love Steranko. I had one conversation with him on the air when we did a panel at Terrificon. And
I was there. I was in the audience for that panel.
If that's the only time that I have a live conversation with Jim Steranko, it's okay. I mean, he teased me for literally like 16 or 17 years. And soon, John. And it's like, finally, and God bless Mitch, man, from Terrificon. He's like, he's got no choice, man. He needs somebody to drive for him. He's got you. I'm like, that's amazing. And he showed up early to his panel. And I was so angry. And I'm like, and so he was just doing it himself for like 15 minutes. I'm like, God damn it, wait for me so we can do this. Jesus. That's funny. All right. Carrie says, Brian Azzarello accused my squirrel puppet of stealing his wallet. Of course she did. The best was when he did First Wave and, crossed Batman with all the pulp heroes. And I was there at Wizard Chicago when they were making the announcement. And he's like, yeah, I don't know why we're doing this. Nobody's going to read this book. And I'm like, I'm going to read it. He goes, yeah, you're like almost 50. Like, he goes, exactly who DC is trying to entice to buy this book. And I'm like, yeah, he's not wrong. Okay. And it sucked because he wanted to put the Shadow in there, but Street and Smith was being stingy with the Shadow. But that's the thing. Isn't it interesting? Forgive the tangent. Isn't it interesting with some of these IP holders? They hold on to them and they get precious for so goddamn long that by the time they do greenlight something, it's too late and they're irrelevant. And like when James Patterson wrote a Shadow novel a couple of years ago, nobody gave a shit because it had been 25 or more years since the Alec Baldwin movie the last time they are like, okay. And I know like everyone bubbles around Doc Savage all the time, and I love Doc Savage, and it's great. I'm glad Dynamite was doing stuff with Doc Savage recently, but it's like, you guys, again, Street or whatever the iteration of Street and Smith is now that owns Doc Savage. It's like, same with Lone Ranger. And I mean, that Armie Hammer movie was weird, but it's like, you got to, thank God the Zorro people dust off Zorro every couple of years and remind people, hey, this is a great character. Let's do something new with him. So, Wade has, again, here's me rambling. Wait, I have to go right at 12 scripts, so I'm tapping out. But first, I want a show of hands as to whether or not that's an accurate imitation of me. If so, that might be the last line of my suicide. Come on, man. You know I love you.
Wait, what's your Wade? Let me see the Wade impression.
The best was when I wowould talk to Marty Pasco and we'd do these marathon talks. And then I'd have Mark on. He'd be like, John, are you finished talking to Marty yet? Hey, how about doing another hour with Marty Pasco? And it's just that little there's like a little in his voice. You forgive me, Mark. I can't help it, man. I'm a mimic. I can't help it. So
it's not bad. It's not bad.
Man,
Mark,
so many
Mark
radio
is
friends.
one of my favorite people. On my vacation this year, I listened to your like 5-hour conversation with him while I walked my dog. It was absolutely zen. I love it.
Nothing makes truly. Mark is one of the guys. I don't think Mark ever disliked me. At least I hope not. I mean, he'll tell me the next time we talk, and hopefully that's going to be soon. We were actually, hopefully, tentatively planning on something before C2E2 next week. So hopefully, and I know he's got 12 scripts he's got to write, but hopefully he'll still make time. But it really meant a lot that he went from, well, I got, like maybe a half hour, maybe 40 minutes. And I'm like, all right. And so literally I had to watch the meter. And now it's like, yeah, no, I got time. And again, it's because, and I think I credit most of it to as he realized that I was friends with Art and Franco, and he loves those guys. And so the four of us would end up hanging out and stuff. So there you go. Yeah. God bless you, son. Love you, John. I'm ambivalent about it, but I love you, John. Thank you, Mark. And truly, I was saying this the other night to Haspiel that when creators pop in and watch the chat, that means so much. So yes, over and out. Thank you, Mark. Take it easy, man. All right, back to us. Are there movies? I know. Is it time? We should
probably go. I have to go take care of my wonderful children.
Yes. Of
and
course.
My poor dog's been stuck inside this whole time.
All right, no worries. No, we're good. That was well. Like the last 5 minutes have been me. Are there any final thoughts as we're wrapping up? I'm sorry. I apologize, Tom.
Final thoughts. Oh, we're gonna be at C2E2, John and I. So come by if you're in the Chicago area. Please come by. I'm again because of all the Hollywood stuff, which is, I've been flying. Since January, I spent. I've been in LA for a long time, and then I was in London for a long time, and then I'm now back in DC, so I'm not doing a lot of cons because I'm traveling so much for Hollywood stuff. But
are you doing any panels at C2E2?
I have no idea. Why are you asking me the hard questions, John?
Well, I don't know.
When I get there, my wonderful assistant Mandy will tell me where I get to meet. And I'll go.
Oh, that's great. I love Mandy. That's great.
So please come by my booth and sign and talk, and we can sign comics. That's the one thing. All I'm going to do all day. My only plan is to sign. I will be at my booth as much as possible. My plan is to sign.
Good.
I haven't done Chicago since I did the famous Chicago COVID Con.
Yes, yes, indeed, with Last Con Standing, as we called it, and Tom and I convinced the entire week afterwards, going, I got con crud, but it might be COVID. I don't know. And we're both like scared to death and calling each other.
Are we dying with this con crud? Yeah. Wonderful days. Wonderful days. Glad we
absolutely
lived through that.
All right. Well, I'm excited for the next month or this month, the Wonder Woman 22 issue story of
yes. Wonder Woman. If you take anything away from this, take away that Helen of Windhorn is out now in complete. I know it's sold out. Go to your store, ask for another copy. They're going to be ordering new copies. Animal Pound is out in stores now. The complete thing, you can read it completely. Please get that. And Trinity is on FOC, which that means is you can go and buy. You can buy. It's a silly book, but it's a heart-rendering book, and it's just if you want to have fun and maybe cry a little bit, that's a wonderful book. And it's going to be huge in terms of DC continuity because of what happens with Steve Trevor. So please pre-order Trinity, the miniseries being below Noir.
And
that's the long pitch. And Black Canary's had its own momentum now. If you're reading it, keep reading it. If not, it's going to be a beautiful trade.
Attaboy, and Wonder Woman 20 again coming up as well.
And Wonder Woman 20, and our new arc starts soon.
Great stuff and more coming from Tom King. And of course, we're all waiting for the Lantern release date announcement and the wonderful show that is coming. We love all the production news that has been happening, and I know Tom can't talk about it, so I will just vamp and say I'm very excited and great, because really I have faith in James Gunn. I have a lot of faith in James Gunn, and I'm excited for the Superman movie.
I could not be more. There's going to be. They just announced that more Superman's coming very quickly. I cannot wait for people to see it.
And Supergirl is in production. That's kind of public. So
Peacemaker 2 season 2 is amazing. Supergirl, Lantern, this is the beginning of the world. If you were alive in 2007 and you were there when the first Iron Man blew us all away, this is our chance to relive this. This is a chance for a new generation to experience it for the first time, and for another generation to get in on it. I cannot be more excited. July Superman. I am going to be first. I'm going to be there, and we'll come on and we'll hype the crap out of it, because that movie's going to be fucking amazing.
That's great. Across the street, watching Daredevil Born Again.
I saw the first episode, so I'm behind.
Okay. All right. I love it. I know a new episode dropped today, or is dropping tonight.
And, there is so much right now. I feel like we lost some superhero momentum.
Yes. Agreed.
For almost the last 4 years since COVID ended. And right now, all of a sudden, there's a new energy where people, the sales in comic book stores are huge again. Congratulations on what Battle Beast just sold for Robert Kirkman and Ryan. That's so well deserved. I love those two guys.
Ryan's a great guy and Robert's a good guy. Yeah.
And what Hush is doing and what's happening with Absolute, and now with what Penguin just did in terms of it, and then what Daredevil is like. There is finally like the wind is at our backs, and this is the. I've been calling it the DC Renaissance, but it's a superhero renaissance, and I'm so excited to be in it, to be part of it, and to be riding this wave. I cannot believe it. I'm excited.
I hear you, man, and yes, it's evolving the stories beyond, especially on TV and film, an origin story, and got to fight the big bad in Act 3, and it's getting more character driven, and that is why I'm excited for what we've seen so far on the TV and film side, and it's certainly happening in the comics as well. At both companies, and really everybody is killing it. I had a great talk with Erica Schultz last week about her X-23 book, and Elektra as Daredevil, and X-23 as Wolverine. Those are great. No, everybody, and of course Wade is killing it. We'll talk more with Wade hopefully next week. It's
a golden age for comics. Get in the stores, get these comics, because we're back in 1992. Let's go.
Sounds good. Thank you, my man. Always a pleasure. I really appreciate you working on my wonky schedule and everything. So thank you.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate this podcast. Really appreciate you too. And everyone, please subscribe and donate. That's what I do every week. I send money to John. My wife, what is this? Who's this John Suntress? What affair are you having with this man? I was like, that's between the two of us. Please donate. It's worth it. He puts his all into this, and he's been doing it for 20 years, and I can't wait for the next 20.
Patreon.com/wordballoon. I appreciate the commercial, Tom. Tomorrow, Don Simpson, Megaton Man, Destroy, Wasteland. I had forgotten that Don Simpson was one of the artists on Wasteland. He's coming tomorrow night on Word Balloon Live. I hope everybody joins us.
Awesome.
Until then, everybody stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy.